Chapter 98. Just as Han Dong triggered the side event of laughing parents, Cass and the others were in the residential area. They were interrogating some elderly people who had lived there for a long time, especially those who had experienced the disappearance of their family members. They were investigating the clown. However, the results were not satisfactory. Many elderly people claimed that their family members were taken away by the clown. However, these elderly people only shook their heads as to what the clown was and what clues and information they had. Even when they talked about this topic, their eyes flashed with fear. It was as if they would be taken away if they talked too much about it. Just like that, the three of them gradually walked to the end of the residential street. Let's stop here for tonight. It's hard to make any substantial progress with this kind of clueless exploration. It's better to cut in through the school side event. Everyone, go home and rest. We might have to face a large number of parasites tomorrow. Boss Cass, there's something on the street. Just as the team was about to disband, Coslin, who was wearing special goggles, discovered something on the street. A red balloon was tied to a tree branch at the end of the street. The team was on guard. With Cass as the leader, they slowly approached. During this process, Han Dong sent a message. However, Cass did not have time to read the message before dealing with the red balloon. Just as Cass approached the tree with the balloon, he saw a mother and daughter at the other end of the tree. The little girl was crying and saying that she had lost her balloon. Cass used a series of methods to confirm that the mother and daughter were normal people. It was a false alarm. Cass immediately climbed up the tree, took down the balloon, and returned it to the little girl. Just as he watched the mother and daughter leave, a familiar figure was jogging towards Cass and the others. When he took a closer look, he saw that it was Han Dong with an anxious face. "Brother Lon, aren't you studying parasites at home? I happened to see a suspected clown outside the window, so I followed him all the way. To a strange building. I sent you a message just now, but you didn't reply." Cass checked the clockwork mechanism and saw that there was indeed a message from Han Dong asking for help. In fact, Cass was somewhat suspicious of Han Dong, who suddenly appeared on the street in the middle of the night. However, after checking the clockwork mechanism that could not be lying, his vigilance was greatly reduced. "Where's the building?" "It's at the end of the block up ahead. Do you want to go?" "Let's go take a look. It would be best if we can confirm the location of the clown's lair in advance." "Bring us there." "Yes." Not long after, the team stood in front of an abandoned building that had been around for a long time. This building was in stark contrast to the surrounding bungalows, giving off a sense of dilapidation as if no one had lived in it for over 100 years. "Let's go." Cass took out the lion's shield and walked at the front. Feya followed closely in the second seat. Han Dong was third, and Coslin was at the bottom. Just as Cass was about to step into the building, boom! The sound of guns exploding came from the back of the line. Han Dong, who was walking in the third position, was hit by an explosive shot at close range. His head was missing, and the wound on his neck was completely charred. The person who fired the gun was Coslin, who was walking at the back. His eyes were cold and without hesitation. Cass and the others didn't react abruptly to such an unexpected situation, as if they had expected it. When the headless Han Dong's body fell to the ground, it exploded like a balloon and shattered into pieces. A burst of strange laughter came from inside the building. Clown Pennywise poked his head out and appeared at the entrance of the building. He was wearing a dirty white clown suit, and his face was painted with white paint. His lips and nose were dyed red. He lowered his head slightly and looked at the three of them with a strange gaze. He let out a strange mocking laugh and then said, "How did you find out?" Cass held his shield in front of him and answered cautiously, "Draytown is under full curfew, and there's almost no one on the streets at night." But a mother and daughter suddenly appeared, and they happened to be holding a red balloon. What's more, Anwa's friend also appeared at this time. It's not convenient for us to talk about other details. Only smart people can attend the grand party I host. You are smart people. Please come in. Then, the clown made an inviting gesture and requested the three of them to enter the dilapidated building. At the same time, The system's voice sounded frowny face, hidden event activated. Clown special party, limited time. Introduction. Receive Pennywise's affirmation and obtain the status of a guest. Requirements. Participate in Pennywise's night party once every 27 years. Follow the relevant instructions and requirements at the party and complete the corresponding clown game. Reward. Pennywise's thank you gift. Note: you must decide within 1 minute whether to enter the building corresponding to the event. If you don't enter, the hidden event will never be activated again. 1 minute. It was impossible to contact Han Dong in time. However, such a hidden event was hard to come by. Once they completed it, they would receive an unexpected reward. They might even obtain important clues related to the clown. In a previous Destiny realm, before Han Dong joined the team, the three of them had overcome many difficulties and successfully completed it. A hidden event was nothing to the three of them. Moreover, based on Cass's experience and what he knew from his mentor, once a hidden event was triggered, they should try their best to complete it. The difficulty wouldn't be particularly high, and they would receive unexpected rewards after the event. Before entering, Cass tried to send a message to Han Dong. However, as soon as they stepped into the territory of this dilapidated mansion or this non-existent street, the signal was completely blocked. Just like that, the first night of the clown's resurrection was over. Han Dong woke up early in the morning. His lower body was still aching. However, with the help of the fungus, the injury that didn't damage his internal organs and bones had recovered by about 80%. It basically didn't affect his movement. Just as Han Dong woke up, the system's voice sounded again. Your teammates, Cass Maldini and the other two, are currently in a special space, participating in a special hidden event. Before they complete the event or die, the current Destiny event will be adjusted to single-player mode. Note: in single-player mode, the cooperative setting will be hidden, and the difficulty of various events will be reduced accordingly. No wonder Cass didn't reply. He actually let them trigger the hidden event at the beginning. Speaking of which, there are so many different events in this movie. Han Dong wasn't too worried at all. In his opinion, the teammates he chose wouldn't die so easily. Single-player mode suits me very well. Han Dong, who had just woken up on the bed, stared at the study table and was momentarily stunned. The study table was filled with all kinds of medicine, and there were even piles of them on the ground. All of this was done by Chun-Li, who was squatting in the corner. These medicine, what's up with them? Chun-Li, who was in the corner, raised her head slightly and said casually, "After you fell asleep, I secretly went to buy medicine. I don't understand foreign languages, so I could only bring back all kinds of medicine. You're robbing. The shop assistant fainted because of me. I destroyed the surveillance camera and the corresponding computer. It should be fine." Thank you. It just so happened that Sophia wasn't around. Han Dong really had to rely on medicine to speed up the recovery of his wounds. There was still an hour before school. After applying ointment on his wounds, Han Dong focused his attention on the laughing gift box. Chapter 99. The gift box is classified as a small clue, while the reward from the school is classified as a medium clue. To a certain extent, this means that in the world of The Clown Returns, Part 1, there are many different clues, which naturally correspond to a large number of side events. There's a certain possibility that if you want to fully investigate and find the clown Pennywise, you will need a large number of clues. Otherwise, if you try to track down the clown without enough clues, you may encounter a serious problem at a certain point and fall into a dead end. Han Dong stared at the clown gift box on the table. He originally planned to bring it to school and open it with Cass and the others. Since something like this happened, Han Dong could only look at the gift box alone. A special eye that only exists on Han Dong's body flashed. Even if you observe closely, you won't notice it. He immediately determined that the clown gift box on the table was not dangerous at all. When he opened the gift box, there was an exquisite smiley face brooch inside. At the same time, there was also an explanation note attached. Small clue. The clown likes to laugh, and also likes people who laugh. Han Dong stared at the information given on the note and couldn't help but curse. WDNMD, what kind of clue is this? I sold my lower body and received 5 bullets in exchange for this kind of clue. At this moment, something strange happened. Click, click, click. The clockwork device on his left wrist made the sound of multiple gears grinding and rotating. The auxiliary clue collector is activated, connecting with the destiny space. Please place the clue you received on the device's scanner. The brooch and the note were connected, and the evidence scan was completed. The clockwork device, together with the mysterious magic circle inside, seemed to be constructing some kind of complicated system. He waited for about 10 minutes. The auxiliary clue collector is activated. Press the button on the right side of the device to project the auxiliary interface to the corresponding area. Blank area is best. Han Dong immediately closed the window and reduced the light in the room to the lowest level. Projection. This technology, mental activity. In the center of the projection, there was a large clown head picture, which was currently displayed in gray. There were a large number of branching lines around the head picture, connecting to various clues that had not yet been activated. There were also lines connecting the various clue icons. According to the size of the clue image and its distance from the clown head picture, the importance of the clue was determined. They were divided into large clues, medium clues, and small clues. On the current projection, only a small clue in the corner was lit up. It corresponded to the small clue smile gift box that Han Dong had just received. The clue icon was a smiley face. He continued to control the clockwork mechanism to fix the projection. After that, he could use his left hand, which was equipped with a clockwork mechanism, to control the clue collection atlas. When Han Dong placed his finger on the lit smiley face clue, a series of messages popped up. Clowns are people who like to laugh and laugh. It seems like you need to laugh or wear a smiley badge to enter certain areas. The remaining clues have not been activated and cannot be used to assist in the deduction. Deduction assistance, this thing. Han Dong was immediately shocked by the clue relationship diagram on the wall and the intelligent auxiliary function. It really was an auxiliary clue collector. Once he collected enough clues, he could directly control them manually to connect, assemble, and deduce the various clues. There were even some simple functions that Han Dong could not think of at the moment. Although Han Dong could deduce it himself, he needed a pen and paper to record it. With this device, it was much clearer and less likely to make mistakes. Han Dong tried to touch some of the unopened branch icons, as well as the clown icon in the center. Branches are not open, unable to obtain relevant information. Unlocked final goal, 0%. Do not come into direct contact with the final goal, high probability of death. What is this device? In the beginning, when his head was connected to Nicholas' body, Han Dong thought it was just an ordinary clockwork wristband with a countdown timer. Later, when he met Cass, he found out that this thing was a communication device with functions such as making calls, sending text messages, and sending faxes. When he entered the Night Academy, additional basic functions such as treasury and pass were activated. Now it was great. It could project an auxiliary panel connected to the Destiny space to help collect, organize, and deduce various clues. At first, I thought it was some kind of mass-produced device in a mechanical factory. Since the clockwork device can interact with the Destiny space, it means that it is not a simple mechanical product. The magic circle inside should be related to a group of people who specialize in the Destiny space. Could it be related to the clock tower? Han Dong looked at such a magical clockwork device. To some extent, it had surpassed the level of craftsmanship in Han Dong's previous world. I have to ask Cass next time. The origin of this device is really not simple. For a moment, Han Dong's anger disappeared. This seemingly useless small clue had now led to an auxiliary system. Moreover, the value of this smiley face badge seemed to be not low. Half an hour passed as he pondered. Han Dong took the parasite in the wardrobe and quickly rushed to the school. What's going on? Just as Han Dong was riding to the school, in addition to some missing person notices, curfew notices, and so on, he had already felt the abnormal phenomenon yesterday. Today, there were more details of the strange phenomenon. Among the pedestrians, there was about 1 in 20 people who would tie or hold a red balloon on their wrist. Of course, there was nothing strange about children holding balloons. But the strange thing was that some adults also held red balloons and walked leisurely on the street. Besides that, regardless of gender, age, and gender, a small number of people applied particularly eye-catching red lipstick on their lips. Some of them even applied a little too much. It was creepy to look at carefully. Although it was only a small part of the population, although this part of the people greeted their friends and went to work normally, it made the overall situation even more abnormal. A strange atmosphere slowly spread in Dry Town. As time goes by, the clown is gradually affecting all the residents of Dry Town. The situation is more serious than I expected yesterday. Time is not only causing the clown to become stronger, but also the whole town may deteriorate. After Cass and the others escape from the hidden incident, we have to hurry. If necessary, we have to split the 4 people into pairs or even single people to obtain clues with the greatest efficiency. If this drags on, it will become a dead end. Chapter 100. Single-player mode. Han Dong, who arrived at the Dry Town Foundation Center on time, found that even the tables and chairs of Cass and the other 2 were gone. Their names also disappeared from the roster. It could be seen that various parameters of the Destiny world could be adjusted at any time. Han Dong was ready to complete the medium-sized branch in the school alone to find a suitable spy host and slowly lead out the hidden parasitic host. The first history class. The teacher in charge of the class was called Powell. On the surface, he was an amiable middle-aged uncle. When talking about history, he always involved some things in the past of Dry Town. He talked and laughed. The class was very interesting and was loved by the students. However, Han Dong was sleeping soundly. He was even snoring openly. After the class, Han Dong was directly taken away by Teacher Powell for a talk. "Nicholas, your performance disappointed me. I have taught for so many years, and no one dared to be so presumptuous in my class. Come with me to the office. I want to understand your situation." Teacher Powell was so angry that his neck turned purple. He kept taking out mineral water from his briefcase and drank 3 bottles in a row. He thought he would be taken to the office. Who knew? All the way through the general office, Teacher Powell didn't have the intention to stop. He continued to walk into the depths of the teaching building. The corridor at the back of the office didn't have any classrooms, so almost no students would come here. For disobedient students, our school has ways to make them obedient, Wang Yao said. When this sentence came out, Han Dong's face was filled with fear as his body trembled. Who knew? Teacher Powell grabbed Han Dong's arm and dragged him to the end of the corridor. The huge strength made ordinary students unable to break free. He led Han Dong to the bathroom at the end of the corridor, the bathroom for teachers. The dim, incandescent light. Inside the cold and empty bathroom. Han Dong was forced by Teacher Powell to the sink. The bathroom sound insulation system, plus the long passage they walked through before, even if Han Dong shouted, other students in the teaching area wouldn't hear. Han Dong's thin and weak body couldn't bounce back at all. What happened next was a little disgusting. The history teacher, who had a receding hairline and a huge belly, actually looked like he wanted to go forward and kiss her. He slowly moved his fat sausage mouth towards Han Dong. When the 2 of them were about 10 centimeters apart, Mr. Powell's mouth suddenly opened wide. He opened his mouth so wide that it exceeded the human limit, and his jaw was dislocated as a result. Sizzle. It was not the tongue that came out of the mouth. Instead, it was a parasite with a large number of thorny tentacles. Its body was about the size of an ordinary wooden stick. From its round mouth, a tongue full of sharp, triangular teeth stuck out. She wanted to have a cross-species French kiss with Han Dong. In fact, it planned to lay eggs through mouth to mouth, implanting a parasitic larva into Han Dong's body. Once Han Dong became the host, he would listen to Teacher Powell's orders to a certain extent. Powell could be considered a high-level host with underlings. When the disgusting parasite was about to stick, great strength, Han Dong's frightened expression disappeared in an instant. The ghoul's arm gave him a boost of strength, and he directly broke free from Powell's restraint. Because Han Dong was very weak along the way, Mr. Powell was completely relaxed. He couldn't react to this sudden outbreak at all. Instead, he was pressed to the ground by Han Dong. The most important thing was that the parasite in his mouth couldn't be taken back. This was a big taboo. Han Dong naturally wouldn't miss such an opportunity. The ghoul's arm pinched the exposed parasite. It burst out with full strength. Crack, 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 the sound of tendons and veins breaking when it was pulled out of the body. The entire parasite, which was nearly 30 centimeters long, was uprooted by Han Dong. This was a size larger than the parasite specimen on Han Dong's body. Because it was separated from the main body, it lacked water. The parasite in his hand quickly shrank and returned to its curled state. Next was the key step of spy production. Han Dong didn't directly put the inactivated parasite that had adjusted the pH and salinity into the history teacher's body. This was because the inactivated parasite might absorb the water in the body and recover after being inserted into the body. Even if it was successful, the history teacher would return to a normal person. After experiencing such a terrifying experience, would ordinary people still dare to assist Han Dong? They would probably run away immediately and leave Dry Town with their whole family. Taking these factors into consideration, through the hidden, he confirmed that the clown was no longer nearby. Han Dong bit his finger and drew an array in the bathroom. This array was somewhat similar to the sacrificial array in the Baker family's underground cave to a certain extent. It was learned from the first chapter of the Book of the Dead, manuscript. However, Han Dong wasn't creating pure pollutants. During this process, he integrated the summoning knowledge he learned from Mr. Black and White. In fact, it was the knowledge system of the sutures. This bathroom is just right for secret refining. If you choose to assimilate me in the office area, I won't be able to do it with other parasitic hosts present. The timing is right. Let's try out the newly learned secret technique. Evil sutures. This was Han Dong's plan. He used the mutated teachers in the school as raw materials to refine it. Through suturing, the inactivated parasite was forcibly sewn into the inner layer of the brain, preventing it from having any chance to absorb water. The array was set up. The parasite's sutures were completed. The limbs were placed correctly. Han Dong supported himself in the center of the array with one hand. Grumble. Tentacles stretched out from his palm and fully activated the array. A gray evil light flashed in the men's bathroom for a moment. The filthy eyeballs spread on the floor of the bathroom and then retracted into the refined body. Han Dong's body swayed. He supported himself with one hand on the side of the sink. It's really uncomfortable to draw 30% of the seed's energy in an instant. It seems that I also need 13% of the energy to maintain the existence of the summoned creature. In front of him, in the center of the dried-up array, stood the history teacher, Powell, whose face was covered with small eyeballs. The suture marks on the head were hidden between the hair and weren't particularly obvious. Success. Han Dong's consciousness was directly connected to the evil sutures. His relationship with Chun Li was different. This history teacher had no subjective consciousness and no emotions. All of his actions had to be at Han Dong's disposal. He was summoning a servant in the truest sense. In fact, Han Dong's suturing skills were far from the level of making a servant. To be able to form such an individual, it was all thanks to the Book of the Dead, manuscript. Under Han Dong's control, the small eyeballs on the history teacher's face retracted under the skin and returned to the normal state of teacher. At the same time, the parasite in the brain successfully connected to the school network. Action begins. Chapter 101. Occultism. It was the study of a knowledge hidden behind the door. The door here had many meanings. It generally referred to the door of knowledge that was difficult for ordinary people to reach. Among the current knights, there were only a few who specialized in occultism, but this school was indispensable. To fight against the creatures outside the city, occultists occupied an indispensable position. Currently, the known occultism schools were plague, suturing, divination, and some other hidden schools that Han Dong did not know. Han Dong had only read a few books about suturing. He used the corpses in the cemetery to perform rough suturing operations. He was completely a layman. However, when Han Dong read the Book of Necromancy, he accidentally integrated the knowledge of suturing into it and found that it could be coordinated. This kind of created servant could not exist forever. After a period of time, it would die on its own. Moreover, to control a servant, it was necessary to maintain the energy supply. If the total energy of Han Dong's seed was expressed as 100,100, once a servant was created, a part of the energy had to be given to the servant until it died, including the upper limit of the energy. The evil sutures that Han Dong created here were modified by parasites, stitched and refined using evil methods. It was a powerful type. 30% of the energy was directly used to control the servant. Therefore, Han Dong's own energy was 70-70, and the servant's energy was also 30-30. Therefore, the most basic requirement for an advanced stitcher was to increase the upper limit of their energy, magic power. As long as the upper limit was high enough, they could control more servants. Some advanced stitchers could even control a whole small army of stitches. But this ability is simply useless. That was right. The anomalies in the portable prison did not need the troublesome summoning ritual and did not need to be given energy. They existed forever and even had an independent consciousness. There was no need to divide attention to manage and control them. Any one of them was enough to crush the conventional summoning method. Of course, the summoning method referred to here was only the suturing study of the occult. In the control, which specialized in summoning, there was a different and more convenient summoning method. This kind of suturing technique can only be used occasionally. Currently, it could be used as a detection radar to find the host of the parasite. Normally, suturing could be used to explain the anomalies in the prison. Prison is still more convenient. Additional explanation. In the last week, Han Dong stayed up late to study the Book of Necromancy. What he really learned was not the refining of evil arrays. It was about the ability of The plan was officially implemented. The history teacher, Powell, followed the connection between the parasites and met the host. Han Dong was able to control the servant's speech and actions, so there was no problem with his acting skills. Han Dong, on the other hand, went to the stadium after class. He seemed to be secretly arranging something. Multitasking, he steadily carried out this fishing plan. He took the bait. The history teacher's acting skills were on point. He successfully convinced the parasitic host to come to the stadium in the evening. A man and a woman were hiding in the equipment room. Han Dong's vision peeped through the gap of the equipment room's slightly open iron door to see everything in the stadium. He's here. 7 o'clock at night. The person who came was neither the principal, a leader of the school, nor any of the teachers. Instead, it was an ordinary female student with a common face. This was enough to show that the host of the parasite had high IQ. It deliberately chose an ordinary host's body. Moreover, its offspring only attacked the teachers and did not attack any of the students. Even if the campus parasite incident was exposed, it would definitely investigate the teachers first. The host of the parasite could mix in with the ordinary students who were completely unaware and easily escape, and then find the next host. In the center of the stadium, Teacher Powell, where are the 2 students who seem to have discovered our identity? I buried them alive in the stadium. I'll dig them out right away. The history teacher took a shovel and began to dig the ground. At the same time, he was sending a signal to Han Dong, who was watching all of this. The final plan had begun. For a moment, flames appeared. Some flammable liquid that had been arranged around the stadium in advance was ignited. The flames spread quickly, forming a ring of fire that surrounded the entire stadium. This group of parasites that needed to replenish a lot of water every day must have a strong fire phobia characteristic. In this way, other hosts who came to support couldn't go deep into the stadium. They only needed to focus on killing the host of the parasite. But swish! It was an arm mixed with teeth, hard shells, and acid. It directly penetrated the abdomen of the history teacher who was digging the ground. The history teacher couldn't resist too much. He died on the spot. At the same time, the plant sprinkler in the stadium was activated. At the same time, someone connected to the fire hydrant outside the stadium. A large water column sprayed from outside the stadium. The fire was quickly extinguished and suppressed. The parasite army, hidden outside the stadium, all appeared. It seemed that they had been prepared. What was more terrifying was that the parasite army of nearly 50 people each had a destructive weapon. There were more than 30 guns alone. Inferior human, you still want to plot against me. The female student's head was tilted 90 degrees, and her eyes were directly locked on the sports equipment room with the sliding door slightly open. Yesterday, the English teacher, Shirley, suddenly lost the signal and disappeared. There must be restless elements in the school trying to target me. I didn't expect you to be so anxious and try to lure me to the stadium alone today. You were really bold. Go and kill them. As the host of the parasite, it could secretly multiply and control everything in an important place like the school. Its vigilance was naturally very high. In addition, an English teacher went missing yesterday. This made the host of the parasite even more vigilant and saw through the phishing plan. When the parasite army surrounded the equipment room, the female student pulled out the inactivated parasite in the history teacher's head with one hand and crushed it with the other. She muttered, "It seems that my descendants still need further genetic modification. This kind of situation can't happen again." Then, the sound of intense fighting and gunfire came from the equipment room. At the cost of the death of 3 hosts, 2 corpses that were shot into a hornet's nest were dragged out of the equipment room. The mature parasite that originally belonged to the history teacher was successfully found from a male corpse. "Mother, the target has been eliminated." The hosts lined up in a row and knelt in front of the female student. "Bury the corpses and return everything to normal." After doing all this, the host of the parasite immediately returned to the appearance of a female student. She rode her pink bicycle home. Her normal parents had already prepared dinner and were waiting for her to come home. On the way home, the host of the parasite glanced at some pedestrians holding red balloons. Her expression became unpleasant. It seemed that she also rejected everything related to the clown. The bicycle stopped in the front yard of her house. The slightly open door seemed to have been specially opened for her. Looking at this scene, the female student actually revealed an emotional smile. "Mom, Dad, I'm back. Sorry, there were some school activities today, so I came back a little late." The smiling female student changed into slippers and quickly walked through the entrance. She froze at the entrance of the dining room. The man and woman sitting at the dining table were not her parents. Instead, they were a thin boy and a woman in red with messy black hair. A sharp kitchen knife was chopping the roast suckling pig. "Hello, Bella." Han Dong waved his hand gently and greeted the female student at the door in a friendly manner. The scene changed. In the stadium of Dry Town Middle School, where the corpses were buried, the corpses of a man and a woman were disposed of. If one observed carefully, they would find obvious suture marks on the surface of their bodies. The man and woman who were hiding in the equipment room and were later killed by the parasite army were the corpses of their parents. This was the meaning of making the best use of everything. Han Dong had only observed everything through the eyes of his servants during the fire on the sports field. He had never been to the scene himself. Chapter 102. Fishing Plan. In the initial plan, Han Dong did intend to lure the target to the sports field. By burning the sports field, the other hosts would not be able to pass through the flames, even if they rushed over. Then, he would work with Chun-Li and the Suture Evil to quickly kill the host. But when the history teacher, Powell, found the real host, Han Dong immediately changed the plan. The host was not the principal or the school leader, but a student. This proved that the host had a high IQ and was very vigilant. Such a plan was very risky. A deeper layout was needed. On the basis of the original fishing plan, another layer was added. The target's vigilance must be lowered. Let it think that the troublemaker in the school had been eliminated. At the same time, let the host army stay in the school to deal with the bodies and the burn sports field to calm the situation. Then, it would go home alone in the normal way. In this way, the real opportunity to be alone came. "Hello, Bella." When Han Dong said those words, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. The female student standing at the door of the restaurant had a ferocious look on her face. Under her skin, strange lines wriggled back and forth, emitting a terrifying aura. In addition, Chun-Li was not bad herself. Miss Chun-Li held the kitchen knife, her black hair covering her face, and her head twisted 90 degrees to stare at the female student at the door. If there was any movement, the kitchen knife would fall on the other party's head. Were my parents? The first thing Bella asked was the situation of her parents. This was a bit not like a parasite, but the reaction of a strong daughter after her parents were kidnapped. They should be singing and dancing in the town's club. Also, you'd better not let the school's teachers come over. Otherwise, tomorrow's newspaper might publish news about the club's accidental explosion. As soon as he said this, the veins on Bella's forehead bulged, and some insect roots even drilled out of her eye sockets. Such a strong emotional fluctuation showed Bella's concern for her parents. It was completely not in line with her identity as the host of the parasite. "Come over, or the food will get cold. After all, this meal is prepared for you." Han Dong invited her to dinner again. The host stared at Han Dong the whole time. After placing the bag in the living room, she sat at the familiar table. Even when she sat down, most of her eyes were fixed on Han Dong. Under its senses, the sense of danger emanating from Han Dong was higher than that of the red-clothed woman with the kitchen knife beside it. "What do you want to do?" Han Dong shrugged. "I don't want to do anything. If possible, I even hope to resolve this matter peacefully. Let you continue to control everything in the school. I won't interfere, and you can continue to maintain your family. However, there are a few questions that I have to clarify." Bella stared at Han Dong strangely. Indeed, as the host of the parasite, its perception was more sensitive. It could see that this young man was not hostile. "Ask away. I came to your house early and chatted with your parents for a long time. Surprisingly, they're just ordinary people and haven't been possessed. Moreover, after knowing that I was your classmate, she was very enthusiastic and insisted that I stay for dinner. They were very kind parents. Also, during the conversation, I found that they have a high opinion of you and are very satisfied to have a daughter like you. This is very strange. A host of parasites who can secretly control Dry Town's basic center is actually a good girl at home. Are you deliberately hiding your identity and pretending to be a human? Or do you desire to be a human? Or are you originally a human? First question, why do you want to be an ordinary person but secretly cultivate your parasitic army?" Bella used the table knife to cut the turkey in front of her as she said, "There's only one reason to cultivate offspring. Because I'm afraid of this. I have to cultivate enough offspring to protect my parents in this town." The table knife did not cut the turkey, but carved a clown mask on the surface of the turkey. This answer was beyond Han Dong's imagination. It was several times better than what he expected. This dinner party was to understand the origin and position of the host of the parasite, so that he could consider his next move. Now that he asked, the host was actually in the same boat as him. Because of the fear of clowns, she secretly reproduced and cultivated an army of parasites. Bella's real identity might really be an ordinary person who mutated into a host of parasites for some reason. Through the secret observation of the eye, he could tell that the host was not lying. Therefore, he beat her at her own game. If he could rope in this host of parasites who was born and raised here, the clues and benefits he would obtain would definitely be more than the medium clue reward. Once he had the help of a powerful host of parasites to fight against clowns, the subsequent exploration, control, and battle of the town would be much easier. It seems like we're in the same boat. I came to Dry Town for this clown. Bella, are you interested in cooperating with me to find and kill this clown? Han Dong directly extended an olive branch and waited for the other party's reaction. Bella opened her terrifying mouth full of sharp teeth, and even her tongue was full of teeth. She swallowed the entire turkey in one gulp and then looked at Han Dong. "First, I don't trust you. It's impossible to cooperate directly. Second, even if I cooperate with you, it's impossible to kill that thing. Han Dong added, Bella, you should have seen the changes in the town, right? There are more and more red balloons. If you don't want to cooperate directly, how about indirect cooperation? You can continue to reproduce and expand your parasite army in the school, and I won't interfere with you. You just need to tell me the secrets of Dry Town and the information about clowns. If necessary, you just need to send some hosts to act as cannon fodder, and I'll start a comprehensive investigation of Dry Town. What do you think? Han Dong still had the ability to fool people. As a high school teacher, he had to think of ways to persuade some graduate students to help with the research team. I'll think about it. Hearing such a reply, Han Dong was overjoyed. To a certain extent, it meant that this network of connections had been established. If he could cooperate with this host of parasites, the success rate of this fate event would greatly increase. At this moment, due to the parasite's need for water and the fact that Bella had just eaten a turkey, thirsty, she grabbed a glass of water on the table. What's this water? Han Dong didn't think much of it at first. Drinking water was a very normal thing to do. But at this moment, he felt that something wasn't right. His brain was quickly searching through his memories, and this glass of water didn't seem to be on the table at the beginning. He didn't know when this glass of water appeared. Don't drink it. Han Dong was stunned. He wanted to stop her, but it was too late. After drinking the water, Bella's body trembled. The fine hair on her body started to float, and her eyes were quickly dyed red. F***. Han Dong immediately activated the aura feature of the young Griffin leather boots. He maximized his speed and pulled Chun-Li away from the building. Boom! A loud noise. The single building collapsed, and a giant host showed its true form. P.S. Reminder for this book's update time. Monday to Friday, 3 updates daily. 1700 hours, 2000 hours, and 22:00 Saturday and Sunday. 1700 hours and 2000 hours. Chapter 103. Ling. The complete form of the ghoul's arm. It crashed through the glass window and landed in the front yard. When they landed, Chun-Li reached out and hugged Han Dong's waist, afraid that he would lose his balance. Han Dong's eye seemed to have captured something. He tilted his head and looked at the street that was shrouded in darkness. Under a street lamp about 300 meters away, a red-haired clown was waving at him. Boom! There was a violent tremor, and the house collapsed. The giant parasite squeezed through the residential building and revealed its true form. Han Dong stared at the situation in front of him and gritted his teeth. The veins on his forehead were bulging. With the ingenious plan and the subsequent perfect negotiation, the matter of the parasite school was about to reach the optimal solution and form a united front with the powerful parasite host. At the last moment, the clown disrupted the plan. Han Dong was so angry that he ground his teeth. But there was no turning back. At the same time, a notification sounded. The host parasite is in a berserk state. The system has isolated the area from the outside world. Please kill the host parasite as soon as possible to avoid irreparable damage to Dry Town. After hearing the notification, Han Dong quickly made a decision. He cleared his mind of all the routes that he had planned beforehand. He took a deep breath. Phew! There's no other way, Miss Chun-Li. I have to think of a way to kill the target. What came into view was a host parasite that was one size bigger than the fallen baker. Its body was 5 meters long. It was strange, but at the same time, the host parasite still retained some human characteristics. There were almost 100 arms on its torso. There were all kinds of round mouth parts on its palms. Once it touched a living creature, it would instantly suck the creature clean. The host parasite's head was still in the shape of Bella's face. It even had brown hair. It further proved that Bella was really a human in the beginning. I see. So that's why she wanted to maintain a normal family? Even if she was no longer a human, she still wanted to protect her only humanity. She even tried to build an army of parasites to protect the town. Unfortunately, I don't have any other choice now. The Fate system has issued a notice that this area has been isolated, which means that the people in Dry Town will not know what happened here. I can only follow the requirements of the side quest and kill the host parasite here. Han Dong was really angry. He hadn't been this angry for many years. This feeling was similar to that of Han Dong when he was still a graduate student. He had worked so hard in the laboratory for months, only to have the precious data he had obtained stolen and turned into a thesis. He was extremely unhappy. Moreover, the person who plagiarized the data was still watching all this from afar. It was as if he was watching a monkey show. The clown, Pennywise, "I'll slowly play with you." Zung, Plague Doctor's dagger. What was different from before was Han Dong wasn't holding it with his free left hand. Instead, he was holding it with his ghoul arm. Strands of fungal threads seeped out from his fingertips and intertwined with the hilt of the sword. Something miraculous seemed to be happening between the weapon of fate and his arm. This was the special ability that Pasha had taught Han Dong during the 2 weeks of learning. The second way to use a weapon of destiny was fusion. The reason why weapons of fate were more expensive than equipment of the same level was because there was another way to use the weapon. When a weapon of fate was compatible with the user's ability, it could be fused with the corresponding limb or even the whole body. Some swordsmen and weapon masters were used to keeping their weapons on the outside and could fuse with them internally. This was probably the meaning of holding a sword in one's hand, but being able to move it at will. In order to fuse a weapon of fate with the user had to reach a certain level of control over the relevant attributes. At least a quarter of time was needed to familiarize with it. However, Han Dong did it in 10 days. Of course, it wasn't all about talent. To a certain extent, being able to fuse with the Plague Doctor's dagger so quickly was related to Han Dong's ghoul arm. Crunch, crunch, when the dagger gradually fused with the palm. The ghoul's right arm immediately underwent a fundamental change. 1. The horny nails faded away and were replaced by a metal dagger material, sharp claw. It was sharper and had a poison attribute effect. 2. In the arm area, part of the flesh split open and a green glass tube, plague energy tube, appeared in the cracks of the flesh, further increasing the output of plague energy. 3. These plague energy tubes embedded in the flesh were connected to each other by the green blood vessels in the arm, and the outlets merged at the palm, meaty mouth. When Han Dong released the active skill of the original dagger, Plague, he could directly eject plague energy from the meaty mouth in the palm, increasing control and accuracy. Metal claws, bright green plague energy tubes, giant rubbery arms. After the fusion, Han Dong's right arm was like a biochemically modified body, which was in line with the steampunk style of the Holy City. After the fusion was completed, a certain hidden eye flashed in the dark. In just a flash, Han Dong understood the internal structure of the parasitic host and determined its fatal part. Miss Chun-Li, I will attract its attention. You hide in the dark and wait for my instructions. Okay. Chun-Li used the shadows of the night and disappeared stealthily. Han Dong took a deep breath. Fortunately, he chose the long-lasting griffin boots and not the explosive hunter short legs to deal with such an enemy. He needed to maintain a high movement speed for a long time. Plague. Han Dong straightened his right arm and aimed at the target's head. Even though the parasitic host looked big, the main composition of its body was still protein, and its strength was almost the same as a human body. Buzz! A green light shot out from the palm. The corrosive and penetrating effect of the plague was stronger than expected. It corroded 3 arms along the way and hit the target's cheek. The cheek was completely corroded and perforated, and there were even fungi left on the surface of the wound, causing deep damage to the body from the inside. This type of parasitic host is still in the category of parasites. It is difficult for living beings to resist the plague. I just didn't expect the plague to be so strong after combining with the arm. I just need to attract its attention. I hope Miss Chun-Li can succeed. Now that the effect was achieved, Han Dong started to run. With the effect of the shoes, he ran as fast as he could. The injured parasitic host's body twisted wildly. Its eyes were fixed on Han Dong as it wriggled its huge body and chased after him. Due to its huge body, Its movement was blocked by the trees on the green road, so its speed was not much different from Han Dong's full speed. Bang! It accidentally crashed into a fire hydrant on the side of the road. For a moment, a water column gushed out. The highly hydrophilic parasitic host immediately approached and absorbed the water to regenerate the broken limbs. The serious injury on its cheek was also completely healed. Not only that, but the water spurted out by the fire hydrant was very large. The parasitic host used its body to block the water outlet and absorb the water crazily. When the water content was replenished to 100%, it further grew and perfected, forming a complete body in the true sense. The hundreds of human arms that were originally scattered on its body began to move to the left and right. Through meat aggregation and skin adhesion, it formed two huge arms that could support its body, further increasing its mobility. The whole body became a half-human, half-insect state. The upper body looked like Bella, and the lower body dragged a parasitic tail that was more than 4 meters long. Its hands crawled. Its tail wriggled. It madly rushed towards Han Dong. Chapter 104. Han Dong chose to escape immediately after attracting the parasite's attention for a reason. First, he wanted to create an opportunity for Chun-Li to ambush him. Second, he wanted to lure the parasite to where the clown was watching the fight. Han Dong couldn't take this lying down. Not to mention, the clown was still watching this comedy unfold. The parasite was currently in a berserk state. As long as there was a target in front of it, it would attack. As long as the parasite was lured over, it would attack the clown indiscriminately. The Destiny Realm has already warned that this area has been completely sealed off. All the residents in this neighborhood have been cleared out, and no local police officers have come to intervene. In addition, this transparent boundary means that this neighborhood has been sealed off. Perhaps even the clown won't be able to escape. Han Dong stared straight at the clown in front of him. When there were only 5 meters between them, Han Dong suddenly stopped. Recklessly approaching the clown might be dangerous, so this distance was just right. The parasite was chasing after him by crawling and wriggling, just like the mutated species in attack on the giant. The upper half of the parasite was wailing in pain. It was becoming more and more like a human. The parasite destroyed a large number of trees along the way, and the distance between it and Han Dong kept decreasing. 10 meters, 7 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters. Miss Chun-Li, attack! Chun-Li, who had been hiding in the dark for a long time, could have climbed onto the parasite's back and ambushed it. Chun-Li, who was surrounded by evil energy, was actually faster than the parasite when she started running. A red shadow flashed. She jumped and climbed, and quickly reached the parasite's shoulder. Frenzied slashing. The seemingly messy swordsmanship actually landed heavily on the same spot. In almost a second, the parasite's flesh and bones were sliced open. The shoulder was damaged, and the arm was disconnected. The parasite, which relied on crawling to move forward, quickly lost its balance and leaned to the right. Chun-Li immediately jumped down and continued hiding in the dark. Just like that, Han Dong stood there motionless. The parasite's unbalanced parasite brushed past Han Dong. It crashed straight into the clown, who was leaning against a telephone pole and watching the show. Boom! While smashing through the utility pole, he also crashed into an invisible transparent boundary. The node was completely unshakable. Even after receiving such a violent impact, not a single ripple appeared. Due to the high speed of the charge, the parasitic host was knocked into a daze, and its huge body fell heavily to the ground. However, the plan did not succeed. Damn it, the clown was not sucked in at all. Instead, he held onto a red balloon with one hand and floated up in advance. He dodged the attack just in time. At the same time, the clown floating in the air stared at Han Dong with a playful smile. Enraged, Han Dong suddenly raised his right arm and aimed his palm at the clown. The plague canister had already begun supplying energy. Prepare to attack the clown. Phew! Han Dong took a deep breath and immediately suppressed his anger. Anger would lead to impulsiveness, and impulsiveness would lead one into the abyss. Now is not the time to fight the clown. The plague alone won't be able to kill him, and shooting recklessly will only exhaust my energy. His thoughts changed. Before the parasitic host could get up from the ground, Han Dong immediately rushed over and climbed onto its back. His eye of concealment scanned the parasitic host's body and immediately identified the most important part. It was a little below the stomach. The steel claws cut into the host's back. Han Dong tore open the 2-meter-long wound, and he could directly see the situation inside the host's body. Han Dong's eye of concealment was not wrong. The host's body was connected by tendrils, nerves, and blood vessels. There was a membrane egg hidden inside. The female student Bella was curled up inside the egg. When he saw this scene, Han Dong was shocked. It's really a human. Due to some reason, it mutated. The reason for the mutation might be related to the secret of Dry Town, or it might be related to the clown. The ghoul's arm grabbed the egg, intending to forcefully pull Bella out. Hiss! A sense of danger overflowed his body, and he felt as if he had fallen into a nest of worms. Instantly, tens of thousands of living parasites gushed out of the wound. These little guys' round mouths could instantly bite through the skin and burrow into Han Dong's body. Such a good opportunity. I can't waste it. Facing the terrifying and dense swarm of parasites, Han Dong had no intention of retreating. Moss, Mr. Han Dong. When Chun-Li, who was hiding in the dark, saw this scene, she took a step forward nervously and bit her lower lip. She was considering whether to go up and help. However, facing such a large number of parasites, Chun-Li, who was good at dealing with single parasites, was helpless. Remember, as long as your target is an ordinary protein organism, there's nothing to be afraid of. The plague will destroy them all. Lecturer Pasha's words appeared in Han Dong's mind. Plague control, extract 30% of the seed's energy. For a moment, a circle of pathogenic fungi formed around Han Dong's body, and poisonous mushrooms even grew on the surface of his skin and clothes, the formation of the pathogenic fungi layer. It caused the parasites that crawled onto Han Dong's body to die instantly. Most of the parasites died directly. A few parasites with tenacious vitality bit through Han Dong's skin, but when they were halfway through, they died directly in his flesh and blood. A very small number of parasites could quickly burrow into the body, but the fungi also flowed in the blood vessels, and they could not avoid death. Just like that, Han Dong ignored the parasites that kept gushing out of his wounds. Whoosh! Sticky juice splattered. He pulled out Bella, who was wrapped in an egg. The moment the egg came out, the parasitic host died. All the parasites immediately withered and turned into a petrified body the size of a bean. The giant parasitic protozoa also completely disintegrated in a short period of time and scattered with the wind. Student Bella, Han Dong immediately tore open the membrane. He tried to wake up the unconscious Bella and make up for his perfect plan. But at this moment, Han Dong unexpectedly caught a glimpse of something red in Bella's mouth. He forcefully moved Bella's chin. A red balloon could be seen expanding in his mouth. Ha ha! The strange clown's laughter echoed in the community. It was too late. Han Dong could not think of a way to save Bella in an instant. At this moment, Han Dong made a decision. He reached out and touched the back of Bella's head. At this moment, the balloon in her mouth had expanded to its limit. Bang! Explosion, liquid splattered. Han Dong was splashed with red liquid and was stunned on the spot. He ignored the oil that splashed all over his body and some of the parasites that died in his body. Han Dong's eyes kept widening, and he stared blankly at the headless body below him. Poisonous mushrooms grew with Han Dong as the center. Crunch, crunch, the sound of teeth grinding. He had never been so angry. Chapter 105. Side mission, Parasitic School, has been completed. Reward, 1. Medium-sized clue, Dry Town's water pollution. Please search for it in the host house. There will be obvious clues. 2. The probability of obtaining Card of Fate and the final reward has increased. 3. Rare living creature reward. Perfect host has been obtained. The community lockdown will be completely lifted in 5 minutes. All damage to the community will be repaired during the execution of the side mission. Parasitic School medium-sized side mission has been completed. Based on the system notification alone, the rewards were indeed great. However, Handong was not satisfied. At the end of the incident, the moment he saw the red balloon in Bella's mouth, Handong began to think twice. 1. How to save Bella. 2. If 1 cannot be achieved, how to obtain the optimal solution. The first question could not be answered in a short period of time. The balloon would explode with a touch, and there was no way to remove it. Decisive. Handong placed his right palm on the back of Bella's head. Before the balloon exploded, he used his tentacles to remove the perfect parasite in her brain. This was the optimal solution. After that, Handong naturally took out an exquisite metal syringe and extracted the cell essence of the giant host. Handong, are you okay? Chun-Li had already done a detailed search of the surroundings in advance. After confirming that the clown had left, she met up with Handong. I'm fine. Second prize. What's second prize? The outcome of Parasitic School. This time was the second result I expected. It's a pity that it failed at the last step. Help me to Bella's house. Find some thin needles and help me pick out the dead parasites in my body. Okay, the feeling Handong gave people now was completely different from before. Chun-Li even faintly smelled a primitive evil aura from Handong. Are you okay? I'm fine. Handong had already restrained his anger. His expression was calm. The fusion state of his right arm had been lifted. With Chun-Li's help, they went to Bella's house together. 5 minutes later, the lockdown in the community was lifted. The buildings, trees, street lights, and fire hydrants destroyed by the host were all restored to their original state. The completely destroyed Bella's house was also restored to its original state. Even the dishes on the table were still hot. However, when he entered Bella's house this time, the humidity increased. Following the source of the moisture, he found Bella's private bedroom. It was a typical junior high school girl's room. Some cute dolls were piled up at the head of the bed. Celebrity posters were pasted on the wall, and there were many 90s song cassettes piled up on the desk. The moisture came from the center of the desk. A damp diary. A dark wave of energy visible to the naked I spread out from the center of the book. It was the medium-sized clue that corresponded to the Parasitic School incident. Handong guessed that the diary, which recorded how Bella became the host of the parasite, might have something to do with the sewers in Dry Town. The view changed. Clown's party, hidden events. The reason why Cass and the others spent so much time inside was because the duration of the party was set to 24 hours. As the guests of the party, they were required to participate in every scare activity of the party. Some activities only required him to walk a few laps according to the rules, and there was no danger at all. Some activities required a long time to decrypt, and once the decryption was wrong, it would trigger a trap. Fortunately, as the host of the party, the clown was only responsible for supervising the entire process. As long as the rules of the event were not violated, he would not interfere. When the party ended, the clown, Pennywise, personally gave everyone a thank you gift for participating in the party. Since the team members were all present and none of them were injured, the moment they received the thank you gift, the 3 members of the team used the plan that they had prepared beforehand and surrounded the clown at the same time. The holy barrier and metal chains quickly locked the clown up. Captain Cass seized the opportunity and pierced the clown's head with his sword. No liquid splashed out. No screams of pain came out. The clown, who was hit, exploded like a balloon. Asterisk pop. Asterisk the balloon exploded. Cass and the other 2 panicked and left the dilapidated building. The team reappeared at the street where they first met the fake Handong. They had no idea what the clown did. The 24-hour party experience was like a dream, but Cass was holding the clown's thank you gift in his hands. Based on their memories, they followed the path that fake Handong led them, but they could no longer find the dilapidated building where the party was held. Even the street that carried the building no longer existed. The dilapidated building where the party was held and the mysterious street that can block signals don't seem to exist in Dry Town. We can only reach it with the clown's guidance. A 4-star fate event is really scary. Fortunately, the hidden event this time is mainly an event, so the difficulty isn't too high. The 3 members of the team return to the starting point and prepare to find a safe enemy to check the hidden reward. I wonder how Brother Allen is doing? We've wasted an entire day on the hidden event. He's alone, so he shouldn't recklessly deal with the parasitic event in the school, right? We have to meet up with him as soon as possible. Just as Cass sent out a message, a door opened. The door of a residential building opened, and the person who walked out was none other than Han Dong. What a coincidence. Han Dong had also just heard the system notification. Teammate has returned. Event difficulty has been adjusted, so he came out to take a look. He did not expect to run into them. However, Cass and the other 2 were on high alert. Coastling used a special pair of goggles to conduct a series of checks on Han Dong. Cass quickly explained, "Brother Allen, I'm so sorry. We met an imposter earlier, so we had to check if you're real or fake." "Is that so?" Han Dong did not mind. At the same time, he used Hidden Eye to scan his 3 teammates. "No problem. It's the real person." Once Coastland finished his check, Cass stepped forward with an awkward expression and hugged Han Dong tightly. "We accidentally triggered a hidden event and only had 1 minute to consider, so we didn't have time to inform you. I'm so sorry for leaving you alone outside. The parasitic event in the school didn't cause you any trouble, right?" In the face of Cass's concern, Han Dong immediately noticed the special gift box in Cass's hand. "This is the reward for the hidden event." "That's right. I was just about to contact you to find a safe place to check the reward." Han Dong immediately suggested, "Come to my house and sort out the clues we've collected so far. Different clues might be related, and we can deduce important information." However, Cass was puzzled that, "Isn't this the only clue? How is it related?" Han Dong quickly added, "Oh, I forgot to tell you. While you were carrying out the hidden mission, I first completed a small side mission. After that, I took advantage of the single-player mode and dealt with the parasitic school incident. I now have 2 clues from elementary and middle school." When Han Dong took out the smile gift box and the soaked diary, Cass's expression changed drastically. The expressions of Cass and the others had completely frozen. They didn't know how to describe their current state of mind. Chapter 106. 1 hour ago, Bella's home. Chun-Li, who was born in the countryside, was proficient in some farm work and needlework because she didn't go to school for a long time. She used the needle and thread to pick out the dead parasites from under the skin and then sewed up Han Dong's wound. If it wasn't for Han Dong removing the head, he would have screamed in pain. After the job was done, whoosh, Han Dong entered the portable prison and went straight to the biological laboratory. First, he injected the cell essence collected in the metal syringe into the white snot. No, it should be the cell mass. Cell essence has been injected. Weight limit increased by 5 points. Parasite sample. Current weight limit 122,162. Han Dong was already very satisfied with the 5 points increase in his limit. 10 more points, and I could try to expand the prison. I must complete the expansion before the end of this fate event. After the injection of the cell essence, Han Dong turned to the examination table. It was the same table used to examine the ghoul's arm. What Han Dong wanted to examine was the perfect parasite, rare living item, reward from the parasitic campus event. Bella's core body. Due to the lack of water, this perfect parasite also curled up into a ball. From the outside, it was actually no different from an ordinary parasite. He clicked on the scan button. Scanning. What kind of technology is this? The scanner, which was originally in the shape of a long strip, actually automatically adapted to the small parasite and changed its form. Hollow jar shape, just the right size for the parasite. About 5 minutes later, a paper report was generated. Parasitic variant, water, quality, excellent weight limit. 27 points access method. Parasitic. Can parasitize the brain and transform the whole body. Can also parasitize a certain part of the body for local transformation. Recommended for non-brain local mutation. Parasitic variant, water, and faceless skull do not match the attributes, and the growth rate is lower, not conducive to the subsequent evolution of the skull. Characteristics. 1. Hydrophilic. Small cheeks will appear at the parasitized part to provide the ability to breathe underwater. The cheeks can also be used as a water inlet to quickly replenish the body's water. 2. Parasitic mutation. Changes on a structural level, improves various functions, and has the ability to adapt to combat. Adaptive battle. When the host is attacked, the parasites in the host body will respond to the stress response and perform the most optimal attack and defense actions. 3. Reproduction. Can reproduce offspring, invade the body of an ordinary mammal from a child host, can be controlled by the main body. Maximum reproduction is 50. Every time the host is added, a portion of the main body's energy will be consumed. Note sad face 1. The parasitic variant has reached its maximum growth state and cannot continue to improve its quality. 2. Parasitic variant, water, requires a large amount of water to be replenished regularly. Once the water shortage value drops below 30%, it will not be able to display the relevant ability. You have to pay attention to this. The quality of the parasite and the ghoul's arm were both excellent, although parasites had more variability. Han Dong could embed his legs according to his own needs to enhance his running, jumping, kicking, and other leg abilities. It could also be embedded into the left arm to further enhance the combat ability of the upper body. It could even be connected to the torso to increase defense and regenerative abilities. But there was a fundamental difference between it and a ghoul's arm. That was the ability to grow. The parasite had developed to a complete body and could not be improved. The ghoul's arm still had a lot of potential. In the note, it was said that the arm could be homogenized and upgraded. Modification, virus injection, secret strengthening, and other methods could improve the quality of the arm and give it additional attributes. Han Dong paid more attention to the later development. If I install such a parasitic body, can I still take it off in the future? The relevant answer immediately came from the laboratory frowny face, the equipped limb, including any item that occupies the weight value. If you attempt to remove it, you will need to undergo forced disassembly. This process will cause disassembly damage and lose 50% of the original weight value. Sigh. Han Dong could only sigh helplessly. He would never consider reducing the upper limit of the weight. The plan to temporarily use the parasite for a period of time in this incident had to be abandoned. If the parasite is inserted into an ordinary person, will it swallow the host's consciousness and memory and replace it with Bella's memory? It was detected that the host's brain and its memory system had been destroyed when the parasite was extracted. If the parasite is in an ordinary person, it will form an unconscious life form with aggressive and strong reproductive characteristics. Is there a way to recover it? According to the parasite's origin, in order to repair the damage at the brain level, it needs to be brought to the place where it was born. The place where it was born? He returned to the world of the clown's resurrection form. Han Dong sat in front of his desk and stared at the soaked diary. Han Dong didn't plan to directly upload it to the auxiliary system. Han Dong still planned to analyze the evidence with his own way of thinking. After he gathered with Cass and the others, he would upload all the evidence to the auxiliary system and discuss it together. Diary owner, Clark Bella, Drytown Basic High School, 8th grade student. Han Dong's expression and gaze changed many times as he read. He seemed to be touched by something in the diary. The diary recorded the entire process of Bella's transformation from a human to a parasitic body. After quickly skimming through Bella's experience when she was still a human, Han Dong flipped through the diary and found the key point of Bella's mutation. Bella, who was average-looking, was bullied in school due to her obsession with cleanliness and her habit of drinking water. This caused her grades to plummet, and she was gradually neglected by the teachers. About 3 months ago, Bella was teased too much. Her water bottle was hidden by a classmate. The drinking water area was also blocked by students who were against her, not allowing her to drink water. Thirst and a desire to drink water that was similar to an illness drove Bella to run around the school. Coincidentally, the school had a water supply. Bella ran all the way to the bathroom, but couldn't find a water source. Just as she was about to explode and collapse, she accidentally found the entrance to a mysterious sewer in a corner of the school. She might have been hallucinating because she was too thirsty. She heard someone calling her name in the sewer. Moreover, there was a very clear sound of water dripping from the sewer. The desire to drink water drove her to crawl into the sewer. The diary stopped here for a whole week. The next diary entry officially recorded Bella's mutated life. Chapter 107. The timeline was retracted. Han Dong met up with the team. Since Han Dong's parents had been eliminated, this building belonged to Han Dong alone, so it could be used as a temporary base for the team. The team gathered in the living room, preparing to activate the hidden reward. The clown's thank you gift, compared to the laughing box that Han Dong received, the thank you gift was larger. For safety reasons, Koslin used a mechanical device to open it carefully at a distance of more than 3 meters. Asterisk sizzle. Asterisk as soon as the lid was opened, a light pink aura leaked out from inside the gift box. It seemed strange, but was actually harmless. Ha ha ha, a clown doll with a spring attached to its bottom popped out from inside the gift box. Everyone in the team was on guard. Han Dong's eyes quickly scanned the doll. After confirming that it was just an ordinary doll, he slowly approached it. The clown doll held out a piece of paper with both hands, and there was an old-fashioned camera hanging from its neck. These 2 items were the corresponding rewards for the hidden event. You have received the hidden reward, item exchange voucher, high quality. After completing the main storyline of The Clown Returns, Part 1, you can use the voucher to exchange for a destiny item during the final reward calculation. You have received the hidden clue, old camera. Function unknown. Item exchange voucher. As expected of the hidden event reward, Cass was overjoyed when he saw this reward. Of course, if they couldn't clear this event, it would be useless. Han Dong wasn't interested in the voucher. His attention was mainly on the hidden clue, old camera. The camera was equipped with a film roll, so all its functions were still functional. Next was the clue sorting stage. The TV in the living room was moved away. The interface of the auxiliary clue collector was projected on the TV wall. The clues, laughing box, and soak diary, obtained by Han Dong, were in different locations, and there was no substantial connection between the 2 clues. The icon for the medium-sized clue was obviously much larger. Moreover, there was a line connecting the diary icon to the larger side quest icon. It seemed that the method to activate this large side quest could be found through auxiliary deduction. The hidden clue was different. When the clockwork device scanned and read the information of the old camera, no clue icon lit up on the interface. The one that reacted was the clown icon in the center. About 15% of the clown icon lit up. A small amount of information about the clown was revealed. Part of the clown's information has been uncovered. While Han Dong was surprised, he reached out and clicked on the soak diary icon and the clown icon in the center to see what information the auxiliary system could give him. The soak diary. There's an entrance to the secret sewer in Dairy Town Basic High. There are all kinds of strange life forms in the sewers. Please ensure that your team is strong enough. Note: once you find the entrance to the sewers and enter it, you will activate a large side quest. The hidden sewer system here seemed to be different from the sewer system in Dry Town. It belonged to the origin of the host, Bella. There must be a lot of secrets hidden inside. The secret sewer corresponds to a large branch. Bella, who had mutated internally, was not controlled by the clown. She even tried to create an army of parasites to fight against the clown. Can we infer that even Clown himself is unable to interfere with this hidden sewer? With doubts in his mind, Han Dong continued to look at the next clue provided by the system. Ultimate intelligence. Pennywise the Clown has been unlocked by 15%. Intelligence. 1. The clown does not seem to exist in the communities, suburbs, or public buildings of Dairy Town. 2. The camera might be able to find the entrance to the disappearing street. Note: ultimate intelligence has not been unlocked by more than 50%. please do not initiate contact with the clown. Next, it was the last stage of the discussion. Based on the above clues, they were considering the next step. Cass stepped forward and stared at the complicated projection of the auxiliary clues. He sighed. The destiny events that we have experienced in the past have never had so many side quests. There were also no major, medium, or minor quests. A normal destiny event would only have about 4 side quests. Once completed, it would greatly improve the progress of the main storyline. Although this is a 4-star destiny world, there's still too many side quests, right? What Cass said confirmed one of Han Dong's thoughts to a certain extent. So many side quests and hidden events were the specialty of the clown returns to life. And Han Dong had a rather terrifying conjecture. Han Dong gritted his teeth and decided to share his terrifying conjecture before Captain Cass came up with the next step. I have a terrifying conspiracy theory that I would like to share with everyone. This was not the first time Han Dong came up with a plan. After he said that, the team members immediately sat down on the sofa and listened to Han Dong's point of view. Ever since I came to the world of The Clown Returns to Life, Part 1, I had an indescribable feeling of abnormality. After experiencing these events, I discovered a problem. The clown does not have a strong desire to attack. It could even be said that he does not have any desire to attack. Whether it was the side quests or the clown's party that you experienced, the clown did not initiate an attack even once. I have a feeling that the clown is enjoying all of this. I even suspect that some of the side quests might be deliberately created by the clown. The clown had set up all sorts of events for us to trigger and complete. He even took the initiative to set up clues and rewards. After he had set up all of these, he only needed to watch the show from the dark. When necessary, he would slightly change some of the parameters to increase the enjoyment and interest of the event. At least, the 3 events that we have completed so far were directly or indirectly related to the clown. In the Parasite School incident, if not for the clown's interference, we might have had an additional teammate. In addition to the slight changes that I have observed in Dry Town over the past 2 days, the increase in the number of balloons. The whole town is like an amusement park controlled by the clown. Instead of saying that we are participants of fate, we are more like players in the clown's game. If we are unable to escape from the clown's control, we will eventually die or be trapped here forever. We will completely become a normal member of the town and spend the rest of our lives in Dry Town. By then, we will no longer be able to recognize ourselves. I hope that this will be taken into consideration in the next step. Otherwise, the various events that we have worked so hard to complete will only be seen as a few games in the clown's amusement park. Han Dong's conspiracy theory caused the party members to break out in cold sweat. Brother Alan, what do you mean? There's so many side quests, and some of them are made up by the clown? Yes. Therefore, it is best for us to choose side quests that the clown is not directly involved in. The clown is not the ruler of this world. There must be areas and mysterious events in this world that the clown does not understand or is unable to control. Chapter 108. After listening to Han Dong's conspiracy theory, Cass said in a low voice, "Can I interpret it as, the clown knows some of the rules of the world of destiny?" Something like that. That's all I have to say. Han Dong stepped back. Next, he left it to Cass to come up with the next step of the plan. Han Dong did not plan everything by himself. He would not analyze the situation and come up with a plan. He knew very well that a person's vision was limited. His teammates' thinking ability was not weak. Mechanical craftsmen like Koslin were essentially researchers like Han Dong. They had a very meticulous view and analysis of things. When the clue was uploaded, and when Han Dong gave his conspiracy theory, Koslin remained silent the entire time. He seemed to be thinking about the best solution. Cass stepped forward. When he stared at the extremely complicated clue interface, he was a little uncertain. There were currently 3 paths that could be taken. 1. Based on Han Dong's opinion, if the clown really knew everything, he would be in control of Dry Town to a certain extent. Everyone would have to split up and explore, thinking of ways to trigger some side missions that had nothing to do with the clown or that the clown could not reach. 2. Explore the large-scale side missions that were triggered by the soaked diary, high difficulty and high risk. 3. Decrypt the old camera and find the entrance to the disappearing street. At this moment, Koslin suddenly said, "Frenlon, is the host parasite related to the clown?" Handong immediately explained. "Based on my contact with the host parasite, Bella, I can completely confirm that it has nothing to do with the clown. Her purpose of secretly building a parasite army in the school is only to fight against the clown." Koslin nodded. "That's enough. Next, we'll head directly to the school's hidden sewer. The sewer area corresponds to a large-scale side mission. It's very likely that it has nothing to do with the clown. Even the clown can't interfere. It's also because of this that the host parasite that's trying to resist the clown was formed in the sewer." Handong nodded. Cass saw that the two think tanks in the team had reached an agreement. At the same time, he also thought that this choice was reasonable. "Then it's decided. The operation will be set for tomorrow morning. Everyone go wash up and rest." Cass and the others had been in the clown party for 24 hours straight. They had exhausted a lot of their physical and mental strength, so they could fall asleep after lying down on the bed. Koslin did not seem to want to waste any time. "Captain, give me the camera. I'll try to figure it out. If I can figure out the camera's secret beforehand, we'll be able to connect to the main mission and quickly locate the clown's lair. Don't study too late. There will be a big battle tomorrow. 3 hours of deep sleep is enough." After obtaining the camera, Koslin took out his toolbox and immediately went to a separate bedroom to start his research. His scientific research attitude was very similar to Han Dong's. Take safety into consideration. The team slept in the same room. Sophia was sleeping on the big soft bed by herself. Even though she had secretly invited Cass before she went to bed, she was rejected. Cass's final choice was, she slept on the floor with Han Dong. Due to the limited space on the ground, their bodies were tightly pressed together. Cass was really too tired. She fell asleep as soon as she lay down. However, Han Dong had slept enough for the past 2 days. Cass' strong body took up most of the space, causing the two of them to squeeze together. Moreover, Han Dong could faintly feel that there was a pair of eyes full of jealousy staring at him from the bed the entire time. Phew! I finally fell asleep. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Sophia finally fell asleep on the bed. Han Dong slowly lifted the arm that Cass inadvertently placed on his waist and quietly left the bedroom. From the beginning, Han Dong had no intention of sleeping. He planned to quietly visit Koslin, who was studying the camera, after accompanying Cass and the others to sleep. He pushed open the door to the bedroom on the first floor. Koslin, who was wearing goggles, had already completely dismantled the camera. He was focused on analyzing the internal structure of the camera. "Alan, my friend, haven't you slept yet?" Koslin looked over with a smile. "No, I slept for 10 hours last night. I'm still in good spirits. Did you find anything with the camera?" "Not for the time being. There's no problem with the internal structure, and there's no formation. I think the problem should be inside the camera. Give me a little more time, and I'll be able to confirm it." "Okay." Han Dong pulled out a stool and sat beside Koslin. He silently stared at the process of him inspecting the camera. Just like that, half an hour passed in silence. Han Dong sighed slightly and took the initiative to speak to break the silence. "Koslin, is he still alive?" "Brother Alan, what are you talking about?" "I want to know, is Koslin still alive? Or was he killed by you, Mr. Pennywise?" When Han Dong called out the clown's name, the atmosphere in the room changed. There was a faint pink aura seeping out from the corner of the room. Koslin stopped fiddling with the camera and revealed an unusual smile. "That's not interesting. You actually found out. I spent 24 hours at the party to seriously learn this short man's actions and speech patterns. You seem to have some tricks up your sleeve that can directly see through my disguise." As he spoke, Koslin's lips turned completely red. Waves of dangerous aura seeped out from his body. Han Dong, hurry up and retreat. We're no match for him now. Chun-Li sensed danger and warned Han Dong in her mind. However, Han Dong had no intention of escaping, nor did he have any intention of fighting. He just sat there quietly. "Mr. Clown, you seem to be very concerned about the situation in the sewers. You didn't hesitate to put on a high disguise to mingle with our team. You probably can't easily enter down there. Or is there something you're interested in the sewers? How about we make a deal?" "Oh, what kind of deal?" For a moment, the clown actually revealed an interested expression. "Shall we go out for a walk? How about we talk while we walk?" "Sure." Just like that, Han Dong led the clown out of the room. The system had clearly given him a notification that if he didn't meet the ultimate intelligence gathering standard, he would almost certainly die if he fought the clown. However, Han Dong was very clear about one thing. The clown didn't have any desire to fight. It wasn't easy for him to wait for an interesting player to come here. He wouldn't kill such an interesting outsider for no reason. It was just going out for a walk. As long as they chatted normally, there wouldn't be any problems. Before he left, Han Dong even deliberately wore the smiley badge he obtained from the smiley gift box on his chest. All of his expressions and actions appeared very natural. His emotions were completely suppressed at the bottom of his heart. Chapter 109. It was about the fake Kesslin. Han Dong had his suspicions the moment they met. It was obviously illogical that the three of them could pass through the clown's hidden event unscathed. It wasn't that Han Dong didn't believe in the strength of his teammates. After all, Han Dong himself was injured when he was carrying out the side quest. Once, he was shot multiple times in the lower half of his body. Once, he was invaded by parasites. When they met, the first thing he did was to scan the three of them once with eye. There was nothing wrong with Cass and Sophia, but he found that there was a red energy spiraling in Kesslin's body. In the follow-up segment to explore the clues, Han Dong observed Kesslin many times. He confirmed that this red energy was not accidentally contaminated by Kesslin, but was brought on. Plus, Kesslin's subsequent deliberate action of taking the initiative to ask for the camera basically confirmed his identity. Late at night, the fake Kesslin, who was walking on the tree-lined road, changed slightly. His red lips cracked, and his cheeks turned white. However, the clown still kept Kesslin's clothes and hairstyle. As long as one didn't look at his face, he was still a short 14-year-old high school student. Just like that, the two's date began. Anger was anger, but Han Dong would never forget what happened to Bella. However, the current situation was a special one. In the following conversation, if Han Dong showed any hostility or unnaturalness, it could cause the conversation to fall apart. There weren't many opportunities to meet the final boss of the Fate event in private and have a conversation. Han Dong was still very good at controlling his emotions. He directly treated the clown as a temporary partner and talked normally. Throughout the sacred city, the apprentice knights were in the extremely dangerous Fate realm. They were either thinking about how to deal with the final boss or thinking about how to fight for more time to survive under the claws of the final boss. Han Dong was the only one who went on a date with the final boss on the second night of the event. Are you bored? Trying to turn the entire town into your game city? Or are you worried about something? Just as Han Dong was about to ask the question, the clown cracked his mouth and revealed an exaggerated smile. His mouth did not move, but a strange sound was formed out of thin air. It's rare to see someone as smart as you. The first few tourists who came and died while playing. You guys can be considered the most interesting group, and you can be considered the most interesting person in your group. Other tourists? The other meaning of this sentence seemed to be that there were other apprentice knights who had come to Dry Town before. However, since the clown was still alive, it meant that there was no news from the first few teams. That's right. A group of tourists who are immersed in all kinds of games will lose themselves as they play. There are also some little fellows who brace themselves and come looking for me. Sigh, I don't even have a chance to let them play. Han Dong's face remained expressionless as he listened to the information. He probed further. You must have learned some secrets from these people, right? The secret here referred to the Destiny space. The clown was the final boss of this Fate event, but in essence, he was still a character in the background. Based on the above conversation, The clown most likely learned about the Destiny space from the first few teams of Apprentice Knights. That was why he thought of creating a large number of fake side quests, turning Dry Town into his playground, and treating the subsequent teams as his playthings. The clown just kept laughing and did not answer directly. Han Dong felt that the time was right, so he cut to the main topic at this moment. However, no matter how powerful you are, you should only be able to control the surface, right? You still can't touch the deeper things. That's why you try to disguise yourself as Ko Slin and mix in with us, trying to go to the hidden sewer. Although this is my first time here, I can roughly guess this. The sewer that transformed Bella into a parasitic monster does not belong to Dry Town. Or rather, this sewer area is connected to an inner layer that even you dare not easily step into. Am I right? After the clown heard this, he quickly took out a red balloon from his pocket. Congratulations, you guessed part of it right. I'll reward you with a balloon. After confirming that there was no problem with the balloon, Han Dong decisively accepted it. He tried his best to satisfy some of the boss requests so that the conversation could proceed smoothly. Ahem, then let's talk about our deal. Han Dong's tone gradually became serious. I won't expose your identity. At the same time, the two of us will form a small team and bring the clues directly to the sewer. As a condition, we need you to return Ko Slin to us if you haven't killed him. Unexpectedly, the clown took out a cloth doll from his trouser pocket, which corresponded to the cartoon version of Ko Slin. Ta-da! Little guy, I'll return him to you now. But you need to wait until the sewer incident is over before this little guy can return to his human form. Han Dong confirmed the doll's authenticity through some kind of eye. After handing over the doll, the clown stared straight at Han Dong, and his strange voice echoed in Han Dong's mind. Being smart doesn't mean you're strong enough. The thing in the sewers is very difficult to deal with. Why don't you prove your ability? You're not strong enough to kill a giant parasite. You're still not strong enough? How about this? Han Dong suddenly placed his palm on the clown's shoulder. Gurgle, gurgle. The sound of squirming for the first time. For the first time, Han Dong saw the clown's expression change. His smile disappeared. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk the clown suddenly retreated 5 meters. But because Han Dong's actions were too fast and without warning, the tentacles had already touched the flesh of the clown's shoulder. Pollution. A kind of pollution with spots spread out on the clown's left arm. The clown was in so much pain that he screamed on the ground. At the same time, multiple scalpels popped out from the clown's other hand and quickly cut off all the contaminated areas. The clown's left arm and part of the left half of his body were cut off. Asterisk smack. Asterisk after falling to the ground. The parts turned into thick water together with the clown's clothes. Ultra-rapid regeneration. The clown's body seemed to be made up of lumps of sarcomas. His flesh split apart and was forcefully molded by his skin, rapidly reconstructing a new body. Ha ha! Ha ha ha! An incredibly strange laughter echoed in the night. The sycamore leaves in the surroundings swayed along with the laughter. Are you trying to kill me? The clown's voice was filled with a strong, killing intent. Weren't you the one who wanted me to show my strength? Is there something wrong with that? Han Dong had an innocent expression on his face, but he was laughing in his heart. He was venting some of the suppressed anger in his heart. The clown suddenly stood up and approached Han Dong with a twisted gait. His pale face was almost touching Han Dong's. Han Dong was still standing in the same spot with an indifferent look on his face. The two of them stared at each other for 5 minutes. Interesting. I knew I was right about you. I'll give you another balloon. I'm very satisfied with your performance. Successful cooperation, Charlequin-san. When Han Dong received the balloon, he reached out and shook the clown's hand, making a deal with the final boss of this incident. Chapter 110. Why did he cooperate with the clown? Moreover, he formed a weird duo with the clown to go to the dangerous sewers. There were 3 main reasons. First, Han Dong had read through the diary that was soaked in water, and he had also read a string of secret information at the last page. Bella had encountered the clown several times. Bella's choice was to escape to the hidden sewers in the school. As long as she entered the sewers, she could avoid the clown's pursuit every time. The clown would only stand at the mouth of the well and watch, and would never go down. This meant that the clown really had scruples about the sewers, and he did not deliberately trick Han Dong. Second, if he did not do this, Coslin would die. He would not have the chance to cooperate with this ultimate boss, and he would be strongly targeted by the other party. It would be difficult for him and his remaining 2 teammates to find a breakthrough in Dry Town. In the end, they might gradually lose themselves or die here, just like the apprentice knights who had come to Dry Town before. Third, once Han Dong could go to the hidden sewers with the clown, it meant that Dry Town would temporarily become an unmanaged game city. Cass and Sophia could get some really useful clues during this time. Finally, there was one more point: intuition. Han Dong's intuition told him that this was the only correct way to promote the plot at the moment. If he wanted to get the clown's resurrection form, he had to find another way. The third day in the Destiny space. His biological clock woke Cass up at 7:30 sharp. Sophia, who was sleeping on the big bed, was still hugging the pillow and sleeping soundly. Brother Alan is already up? I didn't expect that I would be so tired that I didn't even notice the movement next to me. When Cass walked out of the bedroom and came to the hall on the first floor, he was immediately attracted by the small thing on the table. An envelope was pressed under a figure similar to Coslin's. It corresponded to Han Dong's handwriting. "Brother Cass, what's wrong?" Sophia walked down the stairs slowly, still looking sleepy. "Change your clothes and prepare to start a thorough exploration of Dry Town. Collect as many clues as possible. Brother Alan fought for this vacuum period for us. We can't waste it." Sophia was bewildered by what she heard. Vacuum period? What happened to Andwa? He went to the sewers with Pennywise the Clown, so Dry Town will be completely empty for the time being. We have to make full use of this time to investigate everything related to the clown. We have to make sure that we have more than 50% information on him. If we can really get out of here alive this time, we must give a big share of the rewards to Brother Alan. He has sacrificed too much for our team. He and the clown? How is that possible? Sophia stared at the Coslin doll on the table. Recalling the series of events last night, he immediately understood something. Could it be that the person who met up with us and left the party yesterday was... That's right. The clown disguised himself as Coslin and blended into the team. Fortunately, Brother Alan found out about it. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. But I couldn't figure out how a trainee knight got together with the final boss. Judging from the contents of the letter, Brother Alan seems to be working with the clown. It was also early in the morning. The sun had just risen from the horizon. 2 special students were standing at the entrance of Dry Town Basic Middle School. Han Dong and the clown, Coslin's appearance, but with red lips and some white cheeks. Why didn't she go directly into the sewers last night? It was written in the diary. Bella usually went into the sewers between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning. She would only go into the sewers during special circumstances, but she would never dare to stay in the sewers for too long. Besides, the clown also said that the sewers at night were the most dangerous. Therefore, after the date last night, Han Dong lay down on the bench by the street and slept. The clown sat on the bench opposite him and didn't need a rest. The clown maintained a smile on his face the whole night. His hands were on his knees, and his eyes were fixed on Han Dong, who was sleeping soundly. He just sat like that for the whole night. It should be noted that due to the death of the host and the Fate Realm's restoration of the school, the entire middle school returned to normal. There were no changes at all. The clown said, "The entrance to the sewers is hidden in every corner of the school, and it changes every day. You can find it. After all, you've seen Bella's diary. If you can find it, I'll reward you with a balloon." Okay. In fact, the diary didn't mention anything about the location of the entrance. There was no mention of any pattern. The first time Bella found the entrance was when she was extremely depressed. She ran around the school building and finally found the entrance to the sewers in an abandoned storeroom. After becoming the host, Bella completely relied on her own senses to find the entrance. Unfortunately, Han Dong happened to have the perfect parasite in his hand, and it acted as a compass. Once he got close to the entrance of the sewers, there would be a corresponding reaction. He put the fossil-like parasite in his pocket and began to search for the entrance. He walked past the entire school building, but there was no reaction. He could only continue to search for the auxiliary buildings in the middle school. In the end, when Han Dong walked to the laboratory building, the parasite in his pocket wriggled slightly. It should be in this building. With every floor up, the parasite wriggled more violently. The entrance to the sewers is on the top floor. Han Dong found it hard to understand. Since it was the sewers, shouldn't it be underground? Such a strange setting, on the other hand, confirmed to a certain extent that the mysterious sewers didn't belong to Dry Town. It was a space that existed alone. Han Dong became more and more curious about the sewers. He went all the way to the male toilet at the end of the top floor. The sound of water dripping from inside made the parasite start to move violently. Han Dong had no choice but to put the parasite in a tempered glass test tube that he had prepared beforehand. Not bad. You found it so quickly. Let me give you a small balloon. This was already the third balloon Han Dong received. The red balloon's size could be changed by itself. Han Dong also asked curiously at this time, "What's the use of this balloon? Poke it when you get lost." Okay. Han Dong shrunk the 3 balloons to the size of ping-pong balls and hung them at his waist. Unfortunately, when the 2 of them stepped into the male toilet, they bumped into a group of delinquents. The middle school students with ear studs, nose rings, and tattoos seemed to have just arrived. They were about to share the private goods that they had obtained after much difficulty with their friends. These things were much more powerful than cigarettes. The 2 junior students who suddenly barged in, and they were small people like Han Dong and Ko Slin, were the most typical targets for bullying. "You 2 shorties, what are you doing here so early in the morning? Could it be that you're a couple and came here to do embarrassing things? Ha! Since you've seen us, don't even think about getting out." In the face of such a situation, Han Dong looked at the clown with a resigned expression. "Aren't the people in Dry Town all under your control?" The clown was dumbfounded. "When did I say that these people are all under my control? This is so boring. The more variables there are, the more realistic and interesting the game will be. I won't spend any effort to control trash like this. Who the F***CK are you calling trash?" The blonde leading the group grabbed the clown's collar, lifted him up, and pressed him against the wall. At this moment, the horrifying scene of the original The Clown Returns flashed through Han Dong's mind. But Han Dong had a vague feeling that what would happen next would be worse than the plot in the original movie. To be honest, Han Dong didn't really want to see it. He was afraid that he would be 404. Chapter 111. In a bathroom, Han Dong had already imagined the horrible scene of the 5 delinquents having balloons stuffed into their mouths and exploding. To be honest, Han Dong didn't want to be covered in oil. It was uncomfortable to be sticky all over, and the smell would inevitably attract things in the sewer. However, what happened next was completely different from what Han Dong had imagined. Clown, who was pressed against the wall by the golden-haired youth, was about to be beaten up. A series of heavy footsteps came from outside the door. Immediately after, a 2-meter-tall adult man in a gray security uniform with bulging muscles stood at the door. Lesnar. This was the security captain of Dry High School. It was said that he was also the top fighter in the Dry Town gang. Such a person was not someone the delinquents could provoke. "The 5 of you, come with me. Don't make me say it again." "Okay." The golden-haired youth was so scared that he almost leaked. If he tried to escape, he would be caught sooner or later. At that time, the place where he would be dealt with would not be the school security room, but the gang's torture chamber in Dry Town. When the 5 delinquents left the bathroom with their heads down, the leader glared at Han Dong and the other person, as if to send a signal of "just you wait." Seeing how things developed, Han Dong was surprised. "Huh, you think I'll kill these people?" Clown tidied up his school uniform and reapplied his bright red lips in front of the sink. "That's boring. They can only feel fear and pain for a moment. This is not the result I want. The ultimate goal of an artistic performance is not just a momentary outburst of emotions. It is to completely change a person, Brother Lesnar, how about we just let this matter go? Walking in the corridor, the golden-haired student took out half of his savings, about $100. After all, if he could get that kind of stuff, it meant that this kid's family background was not bad. He tentatively handed the cash to the security captain. If the school found out that he used this kind of stuff, he would definitely be expelled, and he might even be detained. Lesnar didn't hesitate too much and decisively reached out to take the money. The golden-haired youth and his companions were relieved at the same time, thinking that the matter was resolved. However, the lights in the corridor began to flicker continuously. Teacher Lesnar, who was standing at the corner, seemed a little off. First, he stuffed the banknotes into his mouth, chewed and swallowed. Then his entire body began to convulse. Ka, 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 sound of joints twisting. The security captain's head turned 180 degrees, and his eyeballs slid out and dripped onto the ground. His empty eye sockets stared at the five of them. This scene scared the five delinquents so much that they frantically rushed down the stairs. However, no matter how they ran, they couldn't reach the bottom. After descending more than 20 floors, even the connection between the stairs and the corridor of the laboratory building disappeared, leaving only this endless stairwell. Just when they were so tired that they collapsed in the stairwell. Ta, ta, heavy footsteps. The security captain, whose head had turned half a circle, was slowly walking down by walking backwards. His walking speed was very slow, as if he was deliberately giving this group of people time to escape. But no matter how he ran, he couldn't get rid of the security captain. Once he stopped, the sound of heavy footsteps would follow closely behind. Endless entrapment in the stairwell, endless escape, endless despair. This was the art of a clown. In the bathroom, getting to the point, the entrance was actually set up in the bathroom on the top floor of the laboratory building. It was completely different from a sewer entrance laid with a manhole cover in Han Dong's imagination. Using the parasite's induction, Han Dong stood in front of the innermost toilet cubicle. Due to the humidity and lack of use for a long time, the plastic door was covered with a lot of black plaque. Creak, he pushed open the door of the cubicle. This is the entrance to the secret sewer? It's actually on the wall? On the wall, facing the squatting toilet, there was a dark circular manhole cover. Logically speaking, the opposite side of this wall should be the laboratory next door, and the thickness of the wall was at most 2 meters. However, click, just when Han Dong reached out to take off the manhole cover. What greeted his eyes was a dark, damp, and lengthy sewer entrance passage. This passage was the connecting area between Dry Town and the mysterious sewer. Drip, drip, drip. The sound of water dripping came from the depths of the passage. It was clearly just the sound of water dripping, but Han Dong instinctively felt a sense of danger and subconsciously took 2 steps back. The clown stood at the side and stared at the dark passage with his eyes wide open. His tone was slightly excited. The timing is just right. The sewer at this time corresponds to the lowest level of danger. Let's toss a coin to decide who will walk in front. Heads, you lead the way. Tails, I'll do it. Ding. The coin was tossed. For someone like the clown, it was easy for him to manipulate a coin. Han Dong was already prepared to lead the way. Unexpectedly, the coin that landed on the back of the clown's hand was tails. Oh my luck is really bad. Let me lead the way. The clown took out a thin balloon from his pocket. Under his exquisite folding and weaving, the thin balloon was actually made into a miner's hat with a lighting device. The preparation was not over yet. Visible to the naked eye, there was something squirming on both sides of the clown's torso. Whoosh. The clown's clothes were torn by the extra limbs that grew from the inside. 4 grasshopper legs with fur swayed in the air. They were connected to the clown's abdomen and could help him crawl quickly in this narrow and damp passage. Han Dong only watched the clown's transformation silently and did not comment. Let's go. The clown quickly crawled into the passage. Then, considering that Han Dong's body was not that good, he deliberately slowed down to wait for him. Hurry up. We have to enter the sewer area before 10 o'clock. Okay. The ghoul arm was activated and the aura effect of the griffin boots was activated. Han Dong immediately caught up with the clown's speed and crawled quickly in this passage that led to another dimension. Warning: you are currently deep into a special area in the Destiny realm. This area is highly dangerous. Please proceed with caution. At this moment, the clown suddenly spoke. Don't worry. Our game in Dry Town is not over yet. As long as I don't die, I won't let you die so easily. Moreover, I still have to rely on some of your abilities and special information. Otherwise, it will be difficult for me to fully explore this place alone. When we officially arrive at this sewer area, I will tell you some of its secrets. Thank you, Mr. Clown. Chapter 112. Gray. After crawling for almost a kilometer in the damp tunnel, the first thing that caught his eye was the gray light. We're here. The clown retracted his grasshopper legs and left the tunnel. Han Dong jumped down as well, using his hidden eye to observe the surroundings. It was different from a sewer in his imagination. Rather than calling it a sewer, it was more like a complex and abandoned underground parking area with multiple pathways. The underground tunnel was paved with white tiles, and he couldn't see the end of it. At the top of the semi-cylindrical tunnel, there was a gray chandelier every 5 meters. Drip, 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 drip. Clear water would overflow from the wall tiles. Blurred stop signs and directional signs were pasted on the passageway. Finally, there was a small red particle that looked like a fire core floating in the air. An abandoned underground station. He activated the crow icon on the back of his hand and used the doctor's bird's beak outfit to protect himself from the fire core. At the same time, the system's voice sounded frowny face large abnormal. Side mission has been activated. Twisted sewer tunnel. Special information. You have entered a special space area. There are a large number of aberrated life forms, vengeful evil spirits, cursed objects. The overall difficulty is higher than the main storyline of The Clown's Resurrection, Part 1. Please make sure that you have enough strength. Event requirements. 1. Please go to Main Control Room and look for Sewer Tunnel Map, Twisted version. After the first step is completed, the following requirements will be given. Event rewards. Individual 1. Large clue. Draytown's horrible history. 2. Destiny's treasure chest will definitely open an excellent equipment. Random. 3. Sewer tunnel map, twisted version. Item turned into a physical reward, which can be brought out of the Destiny realm. 4. 1 Destiny point. The abnormal side mission needs to be at least 90% completion. This, Han Dong couldn't help but be surprised by the rich rewards. First of all, the Destiny's treasure chest could open an even better equipment. Han Dong was very interested in this kind of high-value equipment. When he went to the trading center, he accidentally flipped through the illustration book of blue equipment. Its price was at least 3,000 points, and the value of the weapon was at least 5 digits. Han Dong estimated that this kind of Destiny equipment would only be fully displayed when one reached the knight rank. Moreover, this kind of price was not something an ordinary novice knight could afford. Han Dong was a little special. If he could get a piece of excellent equipment that corresponded to his attributes, he might be able to unleash the full potential of his abilities. In addition, what Han Dong valued the most was Destiny points. If Han Dong could get a little bit more, he would be able to skip a grade again and become a 4-star mystery apprentice. At that time, he would only be 1 step away from the germination of the seed. Fate points could be considered the most precious item in the apocalyptic world. However, such a large-scale, abnormal side quest was not that simple. After all, even the final boss of this fate event, the clown, did not dare to step into this place. Come here. Just as Han Dong was stunned for a few seconds after receiving the message, he suddenly realized something. The clown was already standing in the workers' lounge 50 meters away. It's not safe to stay here for a long time. Hurry up and come in. Yes. Han Dong tried his best to lower his voice and jogged towards the clown. However, he seemed to have noticed something causing Han Dong to turn around. Behind him, in the gray tunnel, there seemed to be a large number of distorted mutants wriggling on the roof of the tunnel. A large number of eyes were looking at him. This gave Han Dong goosebumps all over his body. He hurriedly met up with the clown. Wait a minute. I need to create some safe houses. If we attract too many monsters down here and can't eliminate them in a short time, it will cause a snowball effect and gradually evolve into an unstoppable corpse tide. I need to create some save points. Han Dong could not understand what the clown was doing next. The clown kept pulling out red balloons from his pockets. Later on, from his mouth, nostrils, and ears. There was only one use for the balloons. That was stuffing. Countless balloons were thrown into the workers' lounge. When the interior of the lounge was completely filled with balloons, the clown slammed the door shut as if he was waiting for something. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding dong. Safe house completed. The clown opened the door again with an excited expression. The dilapidated lounge had been transformed into a safe house filled with 7 different colors. Even the original single-layer iron door had been replaced with a hydraulic valve door similar to that of a bank vault. The safety factor was extremely high. Staying in such a rainbow-colored safe house gave Han Dong a sense of security. Phew! Thanks to you, we were able to enter the sewers at the safest time. The creation of the first safe house went very smoothly. Our survival rate has increased by quite a bit. Next, whenever we pass by a room like this, I will spend some time transforming it into a safe house. Okay, in a sense, safe houses were like save points. It was very useful to explore such an extremely dangerous and unknown area. The clown excitedly moved closer to Han Dong. You should have received the so-called event information, right? Hurry up and tell me, what do we need to do? Since they had formed a team, Han Dong also shared the requirements of the side event. Of course, Han Dong would not mention anything about the reward. Find a map first? That's right. It's very complicated down there, and the route changes all the time. The floor of the safe house was made of a colorful sponge. The clown sat on the ground and signaled Han Dong to sit closer to it. I said before that I will tell you all the secrets of this place. In your mission description, this place is called Twisted Sewers. However, I have a simpler name to describe this place. The middle layer. Han Dong seemed to have guessed something in advance. That's right. This will involve the dark history of Dry Town. And I am just a pitiful victim in the dark history. It's only because I was lucky and escaped in advance. All right, do you think I'm crazy? The clown suddenly pointed at its red nose and asked Han Dong seriously. Yes. That's right. During the dark history of the past, the residents of Dry Town had all turned into lunatics. Some were even crazier than me. Ouch. The topic suddenly went off track. Let's talk about the middle layer first. The so-called middle layer is the only mezzanine that connects New Dry Town and Old Dry Town. Outside and inside. I knew it. Chapter 1:13. Han Dong's intuition was correct. The extreme choice he made was also correct. If he did not come into contact with the final boss of the Clown's Resurrection, Part 2, Han Dong would not have been able to figure out the concept of Part 2 and Part 2 in such a short period of time. Generally speaking, if he followed the conventional way of clearing the level, he would continuously obtain clues from various side events and gradually explore. Only when he finally defeated the clown would he be able to pry into some concepts of Part 2. Of course, the prerequisite was to defeat the clown. The difficulty was self-evident. If he wanted to completely trigger the Clown's Resurrection, Part 2, he had to wait until he became an official knight. For such a high-value chain mission, it would definitely be beneficial to obtain some information in advance. In addition, from the dark history of Dry Town, information that the clown accidentally gave. To a certain extent, it meant that Pennywise the Clown should be born in Part 2, which was Old Dry Town. In the so-called Old Dry Town, a group of lunatics was born due to the influence of the dark history. Other than the clown, there were many crazy and terrifying individuals. Some of them were even more dangerous than the clown. If he wanted to investigate further, he would definitely touch upon the origin of this dark history. It was definitely not something that Han Dong could deal with at this stage. Therefore, Han Dong had to make a deal with the clown. I need to confirm something in advance. Don't tell me you want to go to Old Dry Town? The clown pointed at Han Dong and laughed. Ha ha, look at how nervous you are. It wasn't easy for me to escape from there. How can I run back? At least, now is not the time to go back. The purpose of my visit this time is to understand the problem of the middle floor. In addition to Bella, who was affected last time, many ordinary people in my new dry town were affected by the middle floor and mutated. If this drags on, the amusement park that I've worked so hard to build will be destroyed by these guys. In addition, I can take this opportunity to set up enough safe houses in the middle floor so that it will be convenient for me to come back in the future. When I have enough confidence in the future, I will return to my hometown and kill all those stupid dogs. In the course of this discussion, the clown was so excited that he rolled his eyes and tied his tongue into a bow in his mouth. The monsters wandering in the middle floor, are they from Old Dray Town? Han Dong asked. The clown immediately untied the knot in his tongue and patiently explained to Han Dong. No, I wasn't the only one who wanted to leave Old Dreary Town back then. Many of them escaped to the middle layer, but in the end, I was the only one who found the entrance. The complexity of the middle layer is beyond your imagination. These poor fellows who failed to find the entrance and exit eventually lost themselves in the sewers due to the curse and the influence of the terrifying whispers in Old Dreary Town. Some were completely lost, unable to maintain their original form. They swelled and distorted, becoming part of the middle layer. Some chose to commit suicide. After their bodies decayed and disintegrated, they turned into individual pieces with independent consciousness, lurking in the dark to hunt for food. Some were cursed so severely that their consciousness would fade away and they would become pure cursed creatures. All in all, those who wander around here are a bunch of losers. However, even the losers of Old Dray Town can annihilate your entire team if they get serious. Han Dong replied calmly. Then, the clown, your goal is to clean up the losers, right? To reduce their influence on New Dreary Town. The clown nodded. That's about it. The main thing is to clean up the source of the individual mutation that lures ordinary people down here. At the same time, the clown patted Han Dong's shoulder in a friendly manner and said, however, since you have a clear system instruction, follow the instructions and explore. I haven't come down here for a long time. The road conditions and structure below are definitely different from what I remember. Also, if you follow the instructions, you'll get a reward in the end, right? Yes, then it's decided. Since it's a team of the two of us, everyone will get something. Ha! Han Dong stared at the smiling clown. It was hard to guess its thoughts, but he could not let down his guard around the clown. He had to be careful in his next move. He had to hold back. Let's go. Let's go find a map. Hopefully, everything can be completed before tonight. The clown was very excited after returning to his old place. He took out his weapon right in front of Han Dong. Blah, 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 blah. Following his own sticky esophagus, he reached his arm into his body and began to search for something in his stomach. Sigh, I haven't fought in a long time. Where are my fighting tools? The clown had a puzzled look on his face as he searched around his body, from his stomach to his small intestine, and then slowly to his large intestine. Whoosh! He was careless. His palm accidentally touched his body. Io, I'm sorry, this is so embarrassing. Wait for me. His arm retracted back into his body. After fiddling around for a minute, he finally found what the clown wanted on the left side of his abdomen. Crack! His jaw loosened. He opened his mouth wide enough to take out the secret weapon in his body. His body fluid was sticky. As he dragged his arm, a sledgehammer was slowly pulled out of his mouth. Looking at the scene of searching for treasure in his body, Han Dong felt a little uncomfortable. This taste was too strong. A sledgehammer about 2 meters long, commonly seen in amusement parks, was carried on the clown's shoulder. Han Dong felt that if he was hit by such a sledgehammer, he might be killed instantly. And this sledgehammer seemed to be just one of the items in the clown's body. Han Dong thought to himself, the clown's body is much bigger than it looks. There's another world inside. I could take advantage of this cooperation to understand some of its special abilities in depth so that I can deal with it later. The clown waved his hand. I'll lead the way. Follow behind me. I vaguely remember that the main control room is different from the ordinary staff room. It's very special. As long as we follow the signs at the fork, we should be able to reach it smoothly. Okay, the clown also gave him an additional reminder. I know that you're deliberately hiding some abilities so that you can use them against me later in the plot. However, I advise you not to hide too much. Otherwise, the things here will instantly kill you. I won't be able to save you in time, even if I want to. Okay, I'll call a helper. Han Dong snapped his fingers. Ms. Chun-Li appeared. However, as Chun-Li was afraid of the clown, she hid behind Han Dong as soon as she appeared. Not bad. I'll give the miss a present. If you expose your body directly to the middle layer, there might be problems. Rip. The clown tore off his own face while still alive. The skin that just fell off immediately transformed into a special white face, red lips mask. The clown was completely fine. Through efficient tissue regeneration, the strips of flesh reassembled and formed a new face. Chapter 114. Han Dong carefully inspected the mask and passed it to Chun-Li after he was reassured. There was a large amount of fire core-shaped dust floating in the middle of the underground space. Before confirming its composition, it was necessary to avoid direct contact with this material. Miss Chun-Li put on, "It won't be a problem." Okay. Chun-Li held the mask with both hands and slowly approached her face. Pa! The mask stuck to her face and melted into her skin. The skin that the clown tore off wasn't just a mask. It was a type of protective skin that could cover the entire body. Her face, white face, red lips, and thick black eyeshadow. It wasn't just her face. Chun-Li's hairstyle and clothing were also changing. Hairstyle. Her original disheveled appearance had completely changed. Cute twin ponytails were tied with colorful rubber ropes. Her mid-parting hairstyle seemed to match Chun-Li's small oval face very well. Costume. Originally a tattered red shirt, but now it has become a handsome red jacket. Underneath the jacket was a white t-shirt with the clown's face printed on it. Her lower body was denim shorts, rainbow stockings, and tennis shoes. This outfit was completely inconsistent with Chun-Li's original image. Chun-Li was quite tall, had a good figure, and had a pretty face that was above average. She could completely control this style. It was even somewhat sexy. Chun-Li also immediately noticed the changes in her body. Born in a small mountain village, she had never seen such a small skirt and stockings before. She felt somewhat uncomfortable and even a little shy. Because she was afraid of the clown, Chun-Li didn't dare to move too much. She could only hide behind Han Dong. Han Dong looked at Chun-Li's changed appearance from head to toe. He could see the effect of this outfit. Although the appearance was exaggerated, it could indeed separate the main body from the environment. Your little sister is quite good, the clown praised. Just like that, the weirdest team was temporarily formed. The team members were Clown with a sledgehammer, Faceless Plague Man, and Clown Girl with a kitchen knife. They left the safe house. The moment Chun-Li stepped out of the long gray underground corridor, she felt uncomfortable all over. However, her outfit faintly exuded the aura of a fan. Coupled with a light pink outline, it completely isolated her from the environment. This way, the main control room is probably located in the center of this area. The hammer-wielding clown was responsible for leading the way based on its memories from a long time ago. As soon as they turned the corner, the team stopped at the same time. The passage ahead was completely blocked by a giant worm-like life form. Not only did the huge and fat body occupy the entire tunnel, but the body of the worm also broke through the wall and extended to other areas of the sewer. Aya, the road is blocked. How annoying. We can only take a detour. Wait, Han Dong called out to the clown who was about to leave. Since the middle layer is fraught with danger, it doesn't matter where I go. I might as well take this small path. Perhaps it'll be safer. Han Dong pointed at the giant worm blocking the passage. The clown immediately understood what Han Dong meant. After thinking for a while, he said, "Sure, but it might be a little disgusting. Can you handle it?" "As long as it's possible." Disgusting? Han Dong did not think that there was anything disgusting about living in the old sewer and interacting with fungi, mutated rodents, and even inoculating himself with probiotic fungi. Han Dong took out his plague short sword. He stabbed the blade into the worm's body and used all his strength to cut open an opening. Throughout the entire process, he did not activate the plague effect to avoid angering the giant worm. For such invertebrates, cutting a small opening in their body would not cause much of a reaction. Just like that, the entrance to a special passage opened. This was Han Dong's intention. Since the giant worm connected different areas of the middle layer, wouldn't it be fine to use its body as a connecting passage? The middle layer was fraught with danger. It would be safer to walk directly into the giant worm's body. He pried open the worm's wall. A warm and reddish insect body tunnel appeared. There was some liquid on the worm's body, and the acidity was not very strong. It would not be much of a problem to walk through it. "You're really something, little Nicholas?" Clown gave him a thumbs up, once again affirming Han Dong's interest as an interesting outsider. Just like that, they walked along the winding worm passage. When they encountered a relatively narrow area, they had to stick close to the warm and sticky fleshy walls to pass through. After reaching a certain depth, they relied on the worm's body to pass through about 5 layers of walls. Han Dong cut open another opening, and the team left the worm's body. Wow, what a convenient path. The main control room should be not far ahead. Clown picked up a sign and cleaned the dust on it. The destination was right ahead. Apart from that, the constant sound of machinery coming from the depths of the passage proved to a certain extent that they had found the right path. However, there's something. Han Dong's eye seemed to have seen something ahead of time. In the depths of the passage, a dangerous spirit was moving along the walls. Obviously, these things had locked on a Han Dong's group and were coming over with killing intent. Evil spirits? Ghosts? Aliens? The fire core scattered in the passage interfered with Han Dong's observation to a certain extent. He could not confirm what was moving quickly inside the walls. He could only vaguely see distorted faces. In short, it was very dangerous. Han Dong and Chun-Li stood back to back and entered combat mode. They were ready to fight against the monsters that would come out of the walls, floor, or ceiling at any time. Outsiders who don't hear the call and trespass here must die. A voice filled with resentment echoed in the passage. Immediately after, distorted faces protruded from the walls on both sides. They pulled, twisted, and struggled. Just as these monsters were about to break free from the restraints of the walls and turn into evil spirits to attack the group, Duong, 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 7 consecutive strikes. Every strike of the hammer landed heavily on the heads of these ferocious creatures. It really felt like a game of whack-a-mole. With every strike, there would be the sound of hard objects shattering, and a large amount of filthy liquid would splatter out. The resentment echoing in the passage was smoothed out by the hammers, and everything returned to normal. All right, it's just a few small things that are similar to scouts. If we get rid of them quickly, they won't be able to transmit information. Let's go deeper while it's still early. Let's try to get the map before the troublesome fellows find us. Clown happily waved at Han Dong and skipped toward the depths of the passage. Looking at the strange life forms embedded in the walls and killed instantly before they could crawl out, Han Dong sighed. As expected of the final boss of this incident, some small tricks are far from enough to kill him. Phew! Let's take it slow. Chapter 115. Ouch! It's broad daylight, although there aren't any troublesome fellows. But aren't there too many of these little bugs? While they were on their way to the main control room, there was an endless stream of strange creatures in the walls. The clown, who was walking at the front, was like a game of whack-a-mole, hammering ahead with every hit. Without Han Dong doing anything, the grayish-white passageway turned into a pile of monster corpses. It wasn't just the rats inside the walls they encountered at the beginning. Occasionally, there would be a type of spirit monster, similar to the Eye of Naxxramas, that had a humanoid upper body and a lower body that dragged the spirit's tail. Along the way, they let out terrifying screams and charged straight at the team. The screams went straight into the eardrums and into the brain, similar to a sound wave attack. However, Han Dong's birdmouth doctor outfit could greatly reduce the sound waves, so he only needed to concentrate to be unaffected. The spirits that came straight at them tried to drill into their bodies and cause internal damage. Unexpectedly, Han Dong and Chun Li didn't have time to do anything. The clown pulled on his gloves and easily caught the incorporeal spirits when they rushed in front of him. He didn't give these spirits a chance to struggle. He opened his mouth. He ate. He chewed. He swallowed. Burp. Delicious. It smells like durian candy. The clown, who had swallowed a few terrifying spirits, still didn't look satisfied. He kept licking his fingers, as if he hadn't had enough. After seeing this scene, Han Dong immediately understood something. No wonder. The fate system reminded us many times to not have a conflict with the clown before we gather enough information. In fact, even if we gather enough ultimate information, even if we understand the clown's abilities, when a conflict really breaks out, the chances of our team of 4 winning are not very high. However, some of the high-level information might give us the clown's weakness. Why think about how we have to return to New Drew Town and use the collected clues to start a new war with the clown, I think. It's so unnerving. Han Dong stared at the strange corpses that covered the passageway with a helpless expression. At this time, Chun Li, who had 2 ponytails, secretly sent a message to Han Dong through their master-servant relationship. Mr. Han Dong, did you use the strange creatures in the sewers to find a chance to create this clown? I had this idea from the beginning. It's not easy to implement it now. It's different from the evil spirits in Bewitched. This clown is very intelligent. Furthermore, the clown possessed all sorts of strange abilities. So far, he had only revealed a small portion of them. In this middle, where even I don't know what it is, if the plan fails, the outcome will worse than death. Then, Chun-Li didn't know what to do. Continue working with the clown. Don't do anything out of the ordinary. If I have a plan. Ah, yes, right. All right. It's just that I don't really like this kind of lunatic. Han Dong didn't respond much. He didn't TTT was the clown things. Is points of these people, characters, crazy people couldn't use the identity of an NPC to reverse the rules of the game and even change the rules of fate events to a certain extent. In Han Dong's eyes, the boss, the clown, was definitely a unique existence in all fate events. Han Dong's hatred for the clown had mostly been vented by destroying almost the entire left half of the clown's body, due to their cooperation and the clown's strong assistance along the way. Han Dong's attitude towards the clown had changed, since he left all the small creatures in the passageway to the clown. Han Dong followed behind and used the metal syringe to secretly extract the cell essence from the corpses. On average, he could get 1 cell essence per 3 to 5 corpses. It felt like following a max-level boss to clear a low-level dungeon and looting the corpses himself. Even if each corpse only provided a small amount of cell essence, Han Dong would still benefit. As the number of corpses accumulated, Han Dong would have enough load points to expand the prison. Main control room. Rumble, rumble. Loud mechanical noises came from behind the metal door. It wasn't easy to open this kind of heavy metal door that was driven by pressure. It was impossible to do it with human strength. Let me see if I can decipher this password lock. To be honest, if Koslin was here, he would definitely be able to decipher the password in a short amount of time. Han Dong was in the field of biological research. It was difficult for him to decipher this kind of metal device. Just as Han Dong was about to spy on the internal structure of the keyhole. Boom! The clown standing in front of the metal door swung the sledgehammer in his hand. The wall trembled. The steel door had a crack that was just big enough for a hand to fit in. This kind of crack wasn't enough to destroy the metal door. Perhaps it could be broken open with a few heavy blows, but the clown chose a more violent method. He put down the sledgehammer. The clown actually started to do some warm-up exercises in front of the broken metal door. Stretching. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. The warm-up was complete. The clown put his hand into the crack on the metal door and pulled the door horizontally with pure brute force. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of metal being compressed. The multiple layers of reinforced metal door was pulled open, revealing an opening that allowed one person to pass through. This. Han Dong was shocked. How are we supposed to play this game? It was one thing for him to have all sorts of strange abilities. How were they supposed to play with his brute force? Cass was the strongest in the team. Even if he received a buff to his strength, he couldn't possibly reach such an exaggerated level, right? The clown tore open 3 layers of metal door with his bare hands. Once the clown grabbed the human body, it would be no different from tearing paper. Let's go. Han Dong was stunned for a moment before he followed the clown into the main control space. Han Dong's expression didn't look too good when he saw the situation inside. Giant piston-type metal devices were operating on both sides. The energy source for the device's operation wasn't ordinary electricity or steam. Instead, there were 12 glass containers set up in the main control space. Inside the container filled with liquid was a human wearing a breathing mask. Their bodies were connected to various small pipes. The pipes gathered at the bottom of the containers and connected to the devices on both sides of the room through energy converters. At the same time, there are also some pipes that connected to secret areas. Human electrical devices? Something doesn't seem right. Just as the Prodigy Squad set foot here, all the humans in the glass containers suddenly opened their eyes and stared at the 3 of them with bloodshot eyes. A sense of danger engulfed Han Dong's entire body. These humans were rapidly mutating. Gray blood vessels appeared on the surface of their skin. Different physical signs slowly appeared. The danger level was getting higher and higher. Han Dong hurriedly scanned these guys with his eye. He discovered a problem. I misunderstood. The giant piston-type devices on both sides of the room are a type of powerful generator. Through the energy converters, energy is continuously transferred into the bodies of these humans. At the same time, the pipes connected to their important parts, brain, heart, core muscle tissue, seem to be delivering a special mutated substance to them. Is this the biological modification laboratory? Chapter 116. Could this be the birthplace of Bella? Understanding the connections between things. This was a technique that Han Dong had learned while he was studying for his degree. If he wanted to find the correct and valuable research topic, he had to have this ability. He stepped into the main control room. When he saw this kind of body modification device, he immediately connected it to Bella, the parasitic mutant. Han Dong touched the test tube hidden in his black robe. As expected, the parasitic body had a strong reaction. It's necessary to take a risk. It wasn't that Han Dong was a saint who always wanted to save this cute parasitic girl. It was that Han Dong had established a friendly relationship with Bella. Moreover, to a certain extent, Bella could be considered a regular in the middle floor. Once Bella regained her consciousness, she would become the team's guide, making it easier for them to explore the middle floor. At that time, the Prodigy team would have another parasitic cute girl. When he thought of this, Han Dong immediately moved. He had to kill the human aberration before it could leave the container. He had to ensure the integrity of the glass container so that he could cultivate Bella's parasitic body again. When the clown saw Han Dong move first, he exclaimed, "Oh, you really can't hold back. In that case, I'll leave this place to you and your girlfriend. I'll go inside and look for the map." The clown had no intention of making a move at all. He walked straight into the depths of the main control room. He opened the iron door of the control room and searched for the sewer map, distorted version. The clown's departure meant that Han Dong would have to deal with the 12 human mutants here. They hadn't been completely modified yet. Compared to Bella, they were slightly weaker, but the 12 of them together were definitely stronger than Bella. However, After Han Dong confirmed that the clown had gone to the inner compartment, he didn't panic at all. As long as the clown wasn't present, Han Dong could use his hidden special ability. Han Dong didn't need to go easy on these guys in the sewers. I'll leave this container for Bella. Han Dong had already stuck to the surface of a nearest container. The human wearing a breathing mask in the container had hair all over his body. There were even some meatballs in his palms, and his eyes were emitting a green demonic light. He was similar to an enhanced version of a feline. However, Han Dong would never give this person a chance to completely transform into a beast. Clang! The ghoul claw pried open the lid. Taking advantage of the fact that the guy inside had not completely mutated, he pulled out the container. Han Dong's palm was pressed against the top of his head. The strange creature was squirming. Whoosh! A speckled tentacle grew out and penetrated the skull and went straight for the brain, corrupting and invading it. Whoosh, 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 black stains covered the ground. This poor guy, who had not yet fully mutated, turned into a puddle of liquid within a few seconds. He did not even have a chance to struggle. At present, Han Dong's use of the tentacles was not perfect, but he was still quite familiar with it. However, he still had to consider the problem of energy consumption. After releasing 7 such tentacles in a row, Han Dong would enter a state of dizziness and weakness. In addition, the palm tentacles must be released close to the body. Otherwise, the hit rate would be very low and the effect would not be good. In the following battle, it was impossible to completely rely on this move. Ling ling, the sound of glass breaking continued. Just as Han Dong dealt with one of the aberrations, the remaining 11 had broken free from their restraints. They broke, tore, or shattered the glass containers that contained them. They tore off the breathing masks and various tubes on their bodies and stared at Han Dong with a hateful look. It seemed that they wanted to vent all the resentment they had when they were tortured here. Beastmen, elementalists, muscle enhancers, and even a lizard man who had broken away from his human form and grown a tail. As long as one of them ran to New Dry Town, a small side plot might be triggered. Mr. Han Dong, how should we deal with them? You deal with them alone. Huh? I'm still confident one-on-one, but there are too many of them. You can do it. After Han Dong said that, he took out the leather-stitched book from his backpack, the Book of the Dead, I copy. As soon as the book appeared, the aberrations, who were ready to attack in a group, were shocked. Especially the lizard man with sharp senses. He quickly retreated and hid in the darkness. Miss Chun-Li, stabilize your consciousness. Don't fall. You want to? Yes. Temporarily increase your attributes. Han Dong opened the first chapter of the book, which corresponded to a small chapter called Transformation of Evil Energy. Han Dong bit his finger, drew the corresponding array on his palm, and then attached it to the back of Chun-Li's head. The effect of this array was very simple. It could temporarily transform the energy of any attribute into evil energy. Chun-Li's Cultivate Evil, a tribute, was just right for it. However, this evil energy could not be refined. It could only be provided to Chun-Li for a while, but it could not be permanently strengthened. Han Dong planned to use it to deal with the clown at the last moment of the clown's resurrection, Part 1. Now that the clown was not here, it was a good time to test the effect of the enhancement. As the energy of the seed in Han Dong's head continued to be consumed, a strong evil energy was madly injected into Chun-Li's head. Detected that the host, the possessed Chun-Li, has been temporarily strengthened. Combat rating has risen to D+. At the same time, she has gained the ability to control evil energy. Her combat ability rose from D to D+. It didn't seem like much. The actual change was huge. For a moment, Chun-Li's eyes were completely dyed black. Evil energy stripes appeared on her right arm, which was holding the kitchen knife. A large amount of evil energy overflowed from her palm. The evil energy transformed and covered the surface of the kitchen knife, arming the weapon with evil energy. The kitchen knife, which was originally 10 centimeters long, turned into a 50-centimeter long evil knife. Each strike would have dark attribute damage. Leave it to me. I will kill them. Chun-Li's entire aura changed. Without any scruples, she directly killed into the group of aberrations, 1 against 10. However, not all the aberrations' attention was on Chun-Li. The lizard boy, who was hiding in the dark, seemed to have a high IQ. He realized that Han Dong was the main target. Finding an opening, he directly attacked Han Dong from the blind spot. The lizard's movement was extremely fast. With Han Dong's physical fitness, it was difficult for him to dodge. The lizard's tongue, which was mixed with rotten liquid, was about to wrap around Han Dong's head. Slap! Han Dong seemed to have predicted all of this. 2 seconds in advance, he dodged sideways and stretched out his ghoul arm, firmly grabbing the lizard's tongue without missing a beat. Eye-opening. A crack appeared between Han Dong's eyebrows. Squeak, squeak, squirming sound, a different eye was slowly opening. For a moment, the air became polluted. It was the help of this eye that allowed Han Dong to see through all the details in this fate event and distinguish between the truth and the lies. Chapter 117. 1 week before the timeline returned to the Destiny space. Every night, inside the compartment of the stargazing room, Han Dong was doing special learning and cultivation here. Other than Mr. Black and White, no one knew what Han Dong was doing here. Mr. Black and White also said that. During the learning period, he would never disturb Han Dong, let alone peek at Han Dong's cultivation process. He gave Han Dong enough freedom. The book that Han Dong was studying was the book that came from outside the city, the Book of Necromancy, the I section copy. Unless special circumstances, it is abbreviated as the I section. Han Dong's reading perspective was completely different from that of the original owner, Beck Marcellus. What the head of the Beck family cared about was how to create pollution and how to obtain a powerful force outside the city through sacrifice. What Han Dong focused on was that's right. Because of the faceless head, when reading this book, Han Dong could ignore the pollution. It was not much different from reading an ordinary book. Han Dong intended to read this book thoroughly from the beginning to understand the overall content. But he found that things were not as simple as he thought. A seal that Han Dong could not understand was set inside the book. Han Dong could not read the contents of the 2nd chapter and the subsequent chapters normally. According to the title page of the book, if he wanted to read the 2nd chapter, he had to completely grasp the knowledge described in the previous chapter, and so on. No wonder Beck only mentioned the contents of the 1st chapter in his diary, even though he had this book for a long time. It's because he couldn't grasp all the contents of the 1st chapter and couldn't read the next chapter. Han Dong braced himself and prepared to try to conquer the 1st chapter in a week. All the evil arts recorded in the 1st chapter, including human body refining, evil sacrificial rituals, pollution arrays, and so on, were some basic essentials. After learning the basics, he could really start to learn the core content of the 1st chapter, the I. It was like learning the basics of mathematics before learning physics and chemistry. In a limited time, Han Dong chose to skim through it. He did not need to delve into the principles of evil arts. He only needed to understand the basic concepts. Han Dong and the original owner, Beck, had a fundamental difference in learning methods. Han Dong's learning method was correct. With a faceless head, he read and learned without sleep for a week. By chance, the entire body had entered an indescribably special state. It happened 2 days before the opening of the Destiny space. There was a huge piece of white paper on the desk. Han Dong had written a dense biological knowledge system, mystical diagrams, and copied some evil arrays and books. Han Dong needed to connect these knowledge and find a breakthrough. He needed to understand the essence of the I described in the 1st chapter. Without the aid of a computer, all the calculations had to be done in Han Dong's brain. Am I being a little too eager for quick success? The high intensity of information processing made Han Dong feel extremely tired. His brain also sent out a command to rest. Han Dong was already used to this. Whenever his brain felt tired, he would immediately fall asleep. Who knew, when he lay down, Han Dong's forehead just happened to touch the white paper with all kinds of evil formations written on it. At the same time, Han Dong's right hand touched the Book of the Dead. I copy. Array white paper. Faceless head. Evil book. Trinity. As soon as Han Dong fell asleep, his entire body fell into an incomparably realistic dream. Where is this? It seemed to be connected to the last real dream. Han Dong stood on the podium as a university teacher. But this time, the students sitting under the podium were slightly different from the last time. They were no longer faceless. Hundreds of students had an extra organ, an eye on their face. Only one eye on the student's face was staring at Han Dong on the podium. The multimedia courseware was displayed. It clearly stated that today's homework requirement was hand in the eye. And in Han Dong's hand, a clean glass box appeared out of nowhere. Ring, 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 the bell rang. The students in their seats got up one by one and lined up to the podium. Hand in the homework. Round and slippery objects slid down from their faces and fell into the glass box in Han Dong's hand. The students who handed in their homework waved to Han Dong and left the classroom happily. Immediately after, the projected courseware changed. Han Dong, who was staring at the courseware, was surprised. Isn't this the final array I deduced by combining cell biology and the various arrays in the first chapter? Logically speaking, I haven't completed it yet. How did I complete it? Just as Han Dong was amazed. The array was activated. The homework in the glass boxes flew into the array formation and formed a giant living eye on the blackboard. Just like that, it stared at Han Dong. The size of the eye was the same as the eye on the back of the fallen baker. This is the last step described in the first chapter of the eye book, The Living Demon Eye. Han Dong immediately recalled the contents of the book and reached out to touch the eye according to the steps. It was different from Beck Marcellus's complete depravity at this step, with a gigantic eye growing out of his back. Han Dong was not contaminated in the slightest during this process. Through the absorption of the palm, the demon I described in the first chapter was perfectly absorbed into his body, turned into a normal size, and appeared between his eyebrows. Eye-opening. Han Dong saw many things invisible to the naked eye. The seemingly ordinary classroom was not just the blackboard, the podium, and the desk. Even the walls and the ground were all made of tentacles. It was as if he was in the body of a giant polluted monster. Wow! When he suddenly woke up, it was already daytime. The white paper that was originally drawn with formulas and arrays had turned into a pile of powder. At the same time, a voice came from the bottom of the head. The faceless head has unlocked a new ability. Little Demon Eye, upgradable. Warning, the current faceless head level is LV1. It is difficult to use all the abilities of the Little Demon Eye. Please reserve at least 50 points to upgrade Faceless One's head. Demon Eye. Han Dong's consciousness also had an additional facial organ, and he could freely control this new eye. It was not just opening and closing the eye, but also some other functions. He willed it. The Little Demon Eye opened. While the visual ability was special, the 5 senses were correspondingly enhanced. This eye. Han Dong hurriedly flipped through the eye book. Part of the second chapter's content was shown, but it was not complete. I have to fully use the eye's ability to see the contents of the second chapter. But it's enough. I didn't expect that I would have such an opportunity after sleeping because I was too sleepy. With this eye, I'll be able to consider more difficult fate events. Han Dong stared at the third eye in the mirror between his eyebrows. An exaggerated smile hung on his face. Chapter 118. See through. It could directly see through the opponent's moves. It could even see the principle of some magic. For example, when a fireball flew toward Han Dong, this little magic eye could directly see the core of the fireball magic. When the sword pierced the core, the fireball would disperse on its own. Of course, the more complex and profound the moves in magic, the more difficult it was to see through. Han Dong's little magic eye was still at the most basic level. It was easy to deal with enemies of the same level. It must be slowly strengthened and upgraded through in-depth study of the eye book to adapt to higher-level battles. Currently, Han Dong directly used C through the lizard mutant surprise attack. Sideways. While dodging, the ghoul's arm grabbed the lizard's tongue. Pull. Snap. There was a crisp sound. When the tongue was broken, the lizard was pulled in front of Han Dong. Stab. The left arm waved, and the plague dagger was inserted into the skull, quickly destroying the internal brain. This lizard brother was actually cautious enough. He sensed Chun-Li's strength and deliberately chose Han Dong to cut in, who knew that before he could react to what was going on, he would be killed by this seemingly weak and sickly young man as soon as he made a move. It feels really good. The smooth counterattack made Han Dong feel comfortable all over. While he was at it, he used a syringe to extract the lizard's cell essence. He secretly thought, the harvest this time is a lot more than expected. After completing this large-scale side mission, I don't know how much cell essence I can get. It's enough for me to expand the prison, and even a lot more. Han Dong raised his head and looked at Miss Chun-Li, who was fighting fiercely with 10 mutants. Due to the suppression of numbers, even if Chun-Li received a super strong temporary buff, she could only fight on par with this group of mutants. However, being able to fight on par with them was already very good. This meant that as long as Han Dong joined in, the balance would tilt. Back to back, Han Dong used the perception ability granted by the little magic eye to see through the mutants' moves while carrying out a perfect cooperation with Chun-Li. Kitchen knife and sharp claws. After a fierce battle that lasted for half an hour, none of the 10 aberrations were left. They were all killed by the 2 of them. The moment the battle ended, the evil chi that Han Dong had injected into his body was also depleted. The evil aura on the surface of Chun-Li's body dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. She immediately fell into a weakened state. Her consciousness went blank and her body fell forward. See-through, Han Dong's eyes were still open. He had predicted this in advance and caught Chun-Li firmly. Miss Chun-Li, are you all right? Chun-Li, who was slowly regaining consciousness, could clearly feel the touch on her waist and the warmth of his body. When she stared at Han Dong at such a close distance, her gaze was somewhat evasive. I'm fine. Oh, that's good. Seeing this, Han Dong decisively stopped. He didn't care if Chun-Li could stand steadily. All he wanted was to extract the cell essence of these aberrations as quickly as possible so that they wouldn't deteriorate. Chun-Li's body swayed, but she forcefully steadied herself instead of falling. He stared at Han Dong, who was squatting on the ground with a syringe in his hand and an excited look on his face. Chun-Li's eyes flickered. She wanted to be angry, but she couldn't. Han Dong. Yes, what's the matter? After this time is over, can you use that book of yours to help me strengthen myself? I don't like this kind of temporary strengthening. Let's just do it the hard way and finish in one go. Han Dong felt that something was amiss when he heard that. After Han Dong got up, he looked in the depths of the control space. By the way, why hasn't the clown come out yet? It's already been half an hour. It shouldn't take him so long to find a map. When he looked into the depths of the room, he couldn't see through the iron door. The clown is in trouble. Could it be that the mastermind behind the creation of the human aberration device is inside? Han Dong had Chun-Li follow behind him and temporarily closed his eyes. If the clown was really in a tough battle, he would consider opening his... This little magic eye was the real trump card that Han Dong planned to use against the clown in the final battle. Creak! When the iron door was pushed open, the scene inside stunned Han Dong. There was no need to open his... The clown was panting as he sat on the control panel with complicated buttons. In his hands was the map of the sewers that was needed for the first step of the plan. The clown said helplessly, "Sigh, I'm so tired. Why is there a resident who escaped from the Middle Earth hiding here? I'm so tired. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage. I didn't expect that there would be someone of my kind who could live in the Middle Earth for such a long time. No wonder the aberrated humans were created by him. No wonder he wasn't affected by me when he was sent to New Draytown. This guy was planning to create a large number of aberrated humans and gradually gain control of New Draytown. From there, he would slowly squeeze me out. Fortunately, this clown was smart enough to see through his scheme. Hee hee hee. This is good. The risk is gone. I feel much better. Next, I just need to create a few more safe houses and figure out the route to the Middle Earth. The clown muttered to himself. At the same time, he waved at Han Dong, who was standing at the door. Oh, you're here. Let me rest for a while. Dealing with this guy is tiring me. Okay. Han Dong's gaze fell on a corpse on the ground. A scientist who had at least 10 different mutations was lying on the ground. His head was deformed by the clown's sledgehammer. There was a hole in his heart, and his spine was broken. Even so, this scientist didn't seem to be dead. His fingers were still moving gently. A life form equal to the clown? From Old Dray Town? I wonder how much cell essence this guy has. Han Dong wanted to find an opportunity to steal this person's cell essence. However, when the clown saw that the scientist wasn't completely dead, he was obviously not happy. Crack, 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 opened his bloody mouth. The clown swallowed the scientific monster into his body. Burp, then he let out a super big burp. He didn't give Han Dong any chance to steal the chicken at all. Although Han Dong looked normal, he was about to cry in his heart. Such a strong monster. One of them could probably be exchanged for more than 10 cell essence. Moreover, this doctor who came from Old Dray Town like the clown was full of treasures. Any one of his hands or feet should be of excellent quality or above. Han Dong reached out and took the clue from the clown. The system's voice came. Sewer map, distorted version, has been obtained. The first step of the event has been completed. Reward, 20% completion. The second step of the event, please follow the map's guidance to the sewer exit. Emergency repair of the exit. Avoid monster invasion. Note, during the repair of the broken entrance, there's a certain probability of encountering powerful monsters. Be careful. Rare monster, Dr. Aberration, has been killed. Event completion increased by 30%. There's such a reward? As long as the completion rate reaches 90%, Han Dong will get an extra fate point during the settlement. Thinking of this, Han Dong felt a lot better. Nicholas, what did your system say? Let us find and repair the exit. This sentence made the clown, who thought that he had solved the sewer problem, stunned for a moment. Then, his expression changed greatly. Chapter 119. Exit. Naturally, it was the connection between the middle level and Old Dreary Town. The clown and the recently killed Dr. Aberration must have entered the middle level from the exit. In the end, only the clown managed to break free from the restrictions of Old Dreary Town and escape to New Dreary Town to start a new life. Later, due to the continuous improvement of the Destiny world, the exit was reinforced and no one was allowed to enter in the opposite direction. It was also because of this that the clown could set up his own game city in New Dreary Town. When he heard that the exit was to be repaired. Along the way, even when he met Dr. Aberration, the clown, who was always smiling, showed an uneasy expression for the first time. The exit can't be destroyed. It's impossible. There's no exit in Old Dreary Town. Unless the middle level is destroyed from the inside, Han Dong added. This made the clown's expression even worse. Black stains even flowed out from the corners of his eyes. His tone was unprecedentedly serious. We have to set off now and immediately inspect and repair the exit. It's fine if it's only a small degree of damage. But if it's too big, we'll all die here. At this point, the clown suddenly turned his head as if he had something important to announce. Warren Nicholas. This was the clown's first time calling Han Dong by his English name. If you can help me with all your strength to prevent this crisis, I can consider going easy on your team after returning to Dreary Town. If you do well, I'll even consider faking my death to let you pass the level. Okay. The clown could tell at a glance whether Han Dong was lying or not. At this moment, the long-awaited intimacy notification came. Intimacy level increased. Your relationship with the event boss, the clown, Pennywise, has changed from hostile to neutral. Note, intimacy level could be further increased. Han Dong was shocked and thought. Because of the dangerous incident that threatened the clown and the previous series of cooperation, the hostile relationship was finally eliminated. From now on, It's a real cooperation. If there's a bigger crisis at the exit that needs to be dealt with, it might further improve my relationship with the clown. If it was possible, it would be best if he could reach the same intimacy level as Chun-Li's. My ultimate goal can be achieved in a simpler way. The improvement in intimacy allowed Han Dong to slowly revise his plan in his mind. At the same time, he said to the clown, "Can you give me 5 minutes?" Adding a teammate who is familiar with the sewers, she might be able to help if we run into any trouble. The clown pointed at the small balloon hanging on Han Dong's waist and said, "I'll go first. Follow me later." If the exit had been destroyed, there was no time to lose. "You must come, otherwise you and your teammates won't leave here alive." "Yes." Swoosh. Once again, long grasshopper legs grew from the clown's waist. Looking at the map that could change at any moment, he quickly rushed to the exit. The reason why Han Dong chose to delay the resurrection of Bella was because the map could only reveal the route below, but not the specific situation below. Bella might know some secrets and be able to warn him in advance. At the same time, Bella and her subordinates' parasitic army could also provide Han Dong with combat assistance. Han Dong found the experimental data on human body aberration in the aberration doctor's laboratory and restarted the device. He threw the perfect parasite into the glass container. Rumble. The mechanical device began to operate, continuously injecting energy and a special solvent at the same time. The parasite that was thrown into the container began to react. I hope the system didn't deceive me. Using the solvent used by the aberration doctor to make water-type parasites should be able to restore Bella's memory system to normal. Indeed, it only took 5 minutes. The original parasite had multiplied and differentiated into a complete human individual. The 14-year-old Bella was curled up in the glass container, slowly opening her eyes and looking at Han Dong outside the glass container. The broken memories were slowly pieced together with the help of the solvent. The parasitic host that was almost destroyed by the clown was saved by Han Dong, just like that. Han Dong also immediately found a white coat from the laboratory and put on Bella. "Ew, why am I here? This is Dr. Tom's laboratory." Bella's memory was still stuck at dinner, and she didn't remember anything about going berserk after drinking water. Seeing that she had returned to the laboratory where she was once reborn, Bella trembled in fear and looked around. Because she was also very afraid of the aberration doctor, she didn't want to recall her experience as an experimental subject. "Listen to me. Calm down." Han Dong immediately explained the current situation and asked for Bella's help. When explaining, Han Dong knew very well that Bella herself was resistant and afraid of the clown. Therefore, when talking about it, Han Dong deliberately shifted the focus of the conflict to the damaged exit. He said that there might be more dangerous things entering New Dre Town through the damaged exit. This would threaten the safety of Bella and her family. Bella looked at the dilapidated laboratory and the remains of the dead aberration doctor. "Okay, I'll believe you this time. I'll take you there. If what you said is true, I'm willing to help. We must ensure the safety of the town. As for the clown, we'll talk about it later." After all, Han Dong didn't hesitate to come to this dangerous sewer area in order to help her recover. Bella herself was very grateful. Otherwise, she wouldn't even have the chance to say goodbye to her parents. Intimacy level increased. Your relationship with the incident character, Bella Garcia, Parasite, has changed from neutral to friendly. Note, intimacy level can be further increased. Well, one unexpected gain. "What did you say?" "Nothing. Bella, let's go." "Okay." In order to stabilize her center of gravity and move flexibly, Miss Bella, who was wearing a white coat, grew a translucent long tail from behind her. She led Han Dong and Bella to the exit. Just like that, the Prodigy team added another parasite girl. "By the way, Bella, what is this fire core dust floating in the air?" Bella, who was walking in the tunnel, had a puzzled look on her face. "I don't know. I've never seen such floating things in the sewer before." Han Dong smelled a sense of uneasiness and immediately asked, "Before? When was the last time you came here?" "About 3 days ago." "There wasn't any 3 days ago, But there is now? This fire core dust, could it be from there? Han Dong had an ominous feeling. Chapter 120. Poke. Han Dong took a red balloon from his waist, blew it to a normal size, and popped it with his finger. Pop! A clown doll jumped out from the popped balloon and landed steadily on the ground. This way, this way. I'll bring you to meet the greatest clown in the world. Han Dong was gradually getting used to the clown's strange tricks. Following this doll would lead him to the clown's location. Bella, who was dragging a long transparent tail and wearing a white coat, walked barefoot at the front of the team. Speaking of which, Bella's outfit with only her cute tail exposed was actually quite cute. At this moment, Chun-Li noticed that Bella, who was not wearing any protective clothing, was in direct contact with the flame in the air, but there was nothing unusual. Chun-Li quickly stuck close to Han Dong from behind and asked, "Should I take off my mask? I'm not used to it." "All right." Although the double ponytails were nice, Han Dong would not force it. Chun-Li held her face with both hands, and as a wave of evil energy entered her facial skin, the clown mask was slowly removed from her face. Her hairstyle and outfit were switched back to normal, black hair and red clothes. It seemed that this was the most suitable outfit for Chun-Li. Give me the mask. This thing should have a certain reaction when it gets close to the clown. Chun-Li handed over the mask and asked, "Mr. Han Dong, are you planning to put this girl in prison as well?" This sentence seemed normal, but if one listened carefully, one could hear a hint of discomfort in it. "Well, I did plan to do so at first. However, the situation now is different, and I have other ideas." "Okay." Chun-Li did not say anything else. She, who had returned to her original appearance, deliberately draped her black hair in front of her face to cover her facial features. It seemed that this would allow her to have a clearer insight into the situation around her. Just as she held the kitchen knife and deliberately slowed down her footsteps so that she could stay at the back of the team to cover the rear, slap, all of a sudden, Han Dong grabbed her wrist. However, during this process, Han Dong kept his eyes fixed in front of him and said calmly, "The team leader is not the clown. The current leader is not clown. If we run into any trouble, we will have to deal with it ourselves. It's better for us to stay closer to avoid being separated by unexpected situations." Okay. Chun-Li's face was covered by her black hair, so her expression couldn't be seen clearly. However, from the way she spoke, it was obvious that she wasn't used to it. For the rest of the journey, Han Dong held her hand the entire time. Following that, Han Dong also took the initiative to lean towards Bella, closing the distance between them. "Bella, I have 2 questions for you. Ask away. How familiar are you with the sewers? Can you tell me what you know about the situation? Also, what is the purpose of Dr. Tom creating a large number of human aberrations? Are you trying to seize control of Dry Town from Clown? Or do you have other motives?" Bella paused for a moment. These 2 questions should be able to be discussed together. It's something like this. The great Dr. Tom had always lived below this place, and he even built the main control room into his laboratory. It was used to monitor everything in the underground area. After all, there were some things that were not easy to deal with down there. In order to make it easier to get to the various areas, he also spent a lot of effort to create a giant tunnel worm that connects the various areas below to make it easier to move. Oh, he really used it to walk on a small path? Han Dong had experienced the tunnel of the worm once, and he was quite satisfied with it. As for Dr. Tom's purpose, even though I didn't get a clear answer from him, he seemed to want to take care of both sides. Both sides? Since the doctor was already dead, Bella had nothing to worry about. There are many aberrations like me, but I should be considered the most perfect one. Most of the aberrations have more or less problems, or their ability is limited, or their consciousness is damaged during the aberration process, and they are unable to transform into a normal human form. Therefore, the doctor asked me to return to Dry Town and live freely there. I have to report to him about Clown's situation regularly. As for the other incomplete aberrations, The doctor arranged for them to carry out secret work underground. I don't know what they are doing, but it is probably related to the broken exit that you mentioned earlier. Every once in a while, the doctor will send these aberrations to the work area through the tunnel worm. Once they all die, another batch will be sent over. Han Dong nodded and said, "It seems that the damage of the exit is really related to this doctor. I wonder if Clown will be able to stop him in time. If a monster that's even more powerful than Clown comes out of Old Dray Town, we'll be in big trouble." To save time, before meeting Clown, Han Dong had the little magic eye activate secretly in a low-energy way. Once it captured a monster that approached, the three of them would work together to kill it. They walked for 10 minutes. Bella said with a puzzled expression, "That's strange. It shouldn't be like this. Why are there only these little things disturbing us along the way? Why haven't we encountered any other dangerous creatures?" Han Dong was also puzzled. After all, the large-scale, abnormal side mission mentioned that it was very dangerous down there. But now, other than the doctor and his subordinates in the main control room, who were more powerful, there were only some random people in the tunnel. They posed no threat to the three of them. If Lucas, Sophia, and the others came down, they could easily deal with them. The more unusual it is, the more dangerous it is. Be careful. Han Dong's sense of uneasiness grew as they went deeper. It's not too far away. It should be the exit, Bella reminded him. At the same time, the ashes of the fire core floating in the air became denser and denser. The temperature in the tunnel also began to rise gradually. They continued walking for about 5 minutes, when they vaguely saw the strange black light emitted from the exit. Creak! The wall beside them suddenly turned into a clown safety door. Several grasshopper legs hooked the three of them and quickly pulled the team in. This was the safe house created by Clown. At the same time, he applied a secret concealment technique to merge the safety door and the wall. "Mr. Clown, how's the exit?" Clown's face was ferocious. He drew circles with his hands and said exaggeratedly, "Boom! It's over. A troublesome guy has arrived. Later, I'll lure this guy away. You guys hurry up and repair the exit. If more people from Old Dry Town come here, we'll all be waiting for death." Clown opened a small window on the door of the safe house and looked at the exit. A bald man with a saw blade inlaid on his face was standing there. His pure black eyes, crimson ashes surrounded his body. It was as if he had just crawled out of the abyss of purgatory. Chapter 121. Togu, why is it this guy? I'm afraid he will destroy more than half of my theme park. He stared at the man with the saw blade embedded in his face. The clown's face twitched slightly. At the same time, he spat out a long tongue from his mouth and licked his face. He seemed to be in deep thought. Is he a resident of Old Dry Town? What level is he? Han Dong's brain instinctively warned him of danger as he stared at the clown through the window on the door. The clown stretched out his hand and used his index finger and thumb to measure the length of a small section. Probably just a little bit stronger than me. Just a little bit. Stronger than you? The clown, Pennywise, was the final boss of this 4-star fate event. The clown's intimacy level with me has been changed to neutral because of this event. If it wasn't for the main quest, I could even lead my team to live peacefully with the clown in Old Dry Town. Therefore, the probability of the clown lying is very low. Why would a large-scale side quest give birth to a boss that is stronger than a main quest? Why is the fate dimension so changeable? Or is it that the fate dimension was activated when I had friendly contact with the clown, causing the original main quest to change? Han Dong was suddenly curious about the nature of the fate dimension. It was as if it could see the future and knew that Han Dong would establish a normal relationship with the clown. Such a relationship would cause the original main quest to be unable to progress normally. Han Dong and the others might be able to skip the game. The fate system immediately changed the nature of the event. It was not just a side quest, but a new boss was added to the main quest. "Hey, what are you thinking about?" The clown interrupted Han Dong's thoughts. Bring these balloons, blow them up, and stuff them into the exit. It can effectively repair the damaged area. If you have any other ways to repair the exit, use them all. You must repair the exit. Where do we meet after this? The clown pointed at Bella, who was wearing a white lab coat, and said, I will try my best to stall for time. This little parasite should be able to find the entrance to the sewers, right? After you fix the exit, immediately return to New Dry Town and gather with your group of friends. Taking a picture of the intersection of Bryn Street and Grice Street with the old camera I obtained before, it should reveal a street that I've hidden. Wait for me inside the clown house. I must find a way to kill that bastard Togu. Otherwise, my revival plan will be ruined by him. At this point, the clown started to make some strange movements. He hugged his head with both hands. While keeping his body still, he twisted his head a few times. Click, click, click. There was a feeling of turning a spring. Do warm-up exercises in this way. After warming up, the clown gave a simple explanation. Due to the high-quality environment in Old Dreary Town, it's very different from the outside world. He's still adapting to the middle level. I'll lure him away. At the exit of the underground area, the bald man with the saw blade in his face had been standing there for 2 days and 2 nights. Even if the exit was damaged to a certain extent, it was still extremely difficult for him to enter the middle level from the inner level. At the current crack of the exit, wisps of crimson ashes were constantly overflowing, constructing the body of this visitor from purgatory. At present, only a small part of his right foot was left, and the construction was about to be completed. Scorching. When one was 3 meters away from this person, one could feel an obvious scorching sensation. Pure black pupils stared straight ahead, hands behind his back, standing motionless like a sculpture. At some point, a clown gift box appeared in front of this person. The gift box came with an audio device. Open me. Open me. If you don't open me, I'm going to be angry. However, this man didn't even look at the gift box on ground. The fingers behind his back moved slightly. A small lava pool formed at the bottom of the box, causing the clown gift box to melt into the lava. The bomb device installed inside was melted by the ultra-high temperature before it could be activated. At the same time, a red balloon slowly floated from the other end of the corridor. Pop! When it was 5 meters away, the balloon exploded due to the sudden increase in temperature. Ta-da! Toga, long time no see. As the clown greeted him with a smile, he threw out more than 10 flying daggers in flash strike. Ding, ding, ding. The crisp sound of metal colliding. The flying daggers that fell to the ground were bent due to the violent impact. The man named Togu had a steel-like body. He was completely unmoved by such attacks, not even blinking his eyes. Togu, TSK, I haven't seen you for so long. Have you become uglier? Your bald hairstyle doesn't match you at all. I told you to go for a hair transplant, but you didn't listen to me. As the clown spoke, he directly took out an explosive-style wig from his mouth and threw it accurately on Togu's head. Huh, not bad. This hairstyle matches you quite well. You don't look so ugly anymore. Such mockery made Togu's eyes move slightly. He tilted his head slightly and looked at the clown. The wig on top of his head also melted due to the high temperature. Penny, wise. When this person uttered these 4 words, his body was completely reconstructed and completely adapted to the environment of the sewer. For a moment, a wave of heat filled the entire corridor. Ouch! You're so angry, let's go. The grasshopper's long legs found a fulcrum on the wall and quickly fled with the clown. Togu slowly bent his body to 45 degrees. His head, neck, spine, and legs were all in one line. His right leg stepped forward and made a very exaggerated starting motion. Buzz! After the start, his speed was not much slower than the clown's. A path of flames was left on the ground. Togu seemed to be completely enraged by what happened just now. Or it could be said that he was originally dissatisfied with the clown. When the path of flames extinguished by itself, Han Dong and the other 2 immediately walked out of the safe house and carried out the second step of the side event, repairing the exit. This is the exit. After losing so many aberrated monsters, it only caused this little damage. At the end of the corridor, the corpses of monsters created by the aberration doctor were all piled up here. There were close to 1,000 of them. Unfortunately, they had been dead for a long time and exceeded the time to extract their cell essence. These poor guys were transported here for only one purpose: to destroy the exit. The exit itself was a wall with black scriptures drawn on it. There were a total of 3 cracks, one of which was already the width of a thumb. Hurry! The 3 of them began to blow up balloons at the same time. Once the inflated balloon approached the crack, it would automatically be sucked in and fill up about 1 centimeter of the crack. The early stage of filling up was very smooth. There were no obstacles at all. Just as Han Dong was preparing to fill up the largest crack, an indescribable chill swept through his body. The source was the inside of the crack, which was the other end of the exit. When he looked through the crack that was the width of a thumb, Han Dong saw an eye that seemed to have been soaked in water for a long time. At the same time, strands of black hair were sticking close to the crack and continuously flowing out. The second resident of Inner, you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.